Billionaire philanthropist Miles Bron decides to throw the most over-the-top murder mystery party imaginable. He's hosting it on his private island, and the property is filled with riddles and puzzles. He invites his friends and tells them that their only task this weekend is to solve his own murder. It's supposed to be a dramatic but fun weekend, except when everyone arrives, he starts realizing that something's off. Maybe this isn't just a game, because the truth is, all of Miles's friends secretly hate him. And suddenly it hits him that the question isn't who killed him anymore, it's who actually wants him dead. Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing super well. Welcome to Let's Set the Scene. My name is Jackie and I love talking about all of my favorite movies and books, and I love thrillers, mysteries, and just all that type of stuff. So if that is something that you're interested in, make sure to subscribe down below. We sit down here every single week. We talk about either a thriller movie, a thriller book. I've covered the Housemaid series by Frida McFadden. I've discussed Hide and Seek, When a Stranger Calls, movies like that. So again, if that is something that interests you, make sure to subscribe down below. I would love for you to join kind of like our virtual book/movie club. Today, we have another really exciting video. We are going to be discussing Glass Onion, which is the sequel to Knives Out, which I literally just covered on this channel a couple of days ago. The only returning character, however, is Detective Benoit Blanc, the famous detective. Like the first movie, it is completely stacked. I mean, the cast is amazing. There's Daniel Craig, Edward Norton, Kate Hudson, Janelle Monáe, and Madeline Klein, just to name a few. My personal favorite character in this movie was Kate Hudson, who plays Birdie, but obviously everyone kills it in their roles. And for me, the star of the show actually wasn't Daniel Craig playing Detective Benoit Blanc. It was actually Janelle Monáe. She was unreal in this movie, you guys. Like, I am obsessed with her now, and she deserved to win every award possible for this role. She was just truly phenomenal. Now, Glass Onion follows the similar premise to Knives Out. Detective Blanc is there investigating a murder, but this movie does it in a different way. The twist in this movie was really fun, and as I've said before, I need a million more movies with Detective Blanc. These movies are just so fun, so silly, and not even like stupid silly, like they're silly in a way where you're like, wow, that is just like so brilliant. I love these movies so much. So Glass Onion is a sequel to Knives Out, and there's also a third movie in this like trilogy that just came out a couple of months ago called, I always forget the name, I think it's called Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery. I would love to cover that one because I'm like between Knives Out and this third movie being my favorite. It's like a close tie. They're both so good, but I don't know if I would be able to retell the new movie that just came out because that one is way more complicated. This murder mystery takes place in a church and there's like a million characters, so I don't know if I would be able to like narrate it well, but if you guys really want me to do the third movie, please let me know in the comments down below. These movies are so fun to do, and I'm really excited to talk about Glass Onion. This story is just insane. There's a lot to go over, so with that, let's jump right into it and let's set the scene. Let me introduce you to Claire. Claire lives in this huge white house, kind of like a mansion, and it's giving like the White House, which is really fitting because Claire's a politician. She's a middle-aged mother and wife who seems a little all over the place. She's kind of a hot mess. There's a knock at her door. She swings it open with one hair roller still in while on the phone mid-conversation, and she sees the delivery man at her door holding a package, wearing a mask. Hey, oh sorry, she says, and she puts her phone down and she like covers her mouth with her arm as she signs for the package. And the text on the screen tells us that this is May 13th of 2020. So we know that this movie is taking place in the pandemic, which would explain the face mask and Claire covering her mouth with her arm. Have a good one, the delivery man says. Thank you, Claire responds, kind of frazzled, and she shuts the door. She drops the large black package on the kitchen counter where her husband sits and her young children run around playing. What's this? Her husband asks. I don't know, I've got that CNN thing like now, Claire says, rushing off to the other room. She runs into like her office where a small film crew and her assistant are waiting for her. She runs to sit at her desk in front of the camera. She takes out her hair rollers and just tries to put herself together. On in 10, he's leading you in now, her assistant tells her, as Claire finishes adjusting her hair and her makeup artist adds the final touches. Meanwhile, her husband, who honestly kind of looks like you wouldn't think that this would be her husband. He's like wearing pajamas. He has like a beard growing. He just looks kind of like bummy, and he's just kind of like I don't want to say useless, but he's kind of just like he doesn't really add much. And he just sits there and he looks at the box and he starts opening it up. And inside the package is this dark wooden box with a handwritten note on it that reads, "Love, Miles." "It's from Miles," the husband calls out. Claire hears this and swats the makeup artist's hand away from her before logging in for the taping. And here with me now is Connecticut Governor Claire DeBella, whose Senate campaign is picking up steam as she is positioned herself as a very different kind of candidate. Governor, thanks so much for joining us. Working from home like the rest of us, I can see. Jake Tapper from CNN says, "Yes, welcome to our office campaign center and kindergarten. We are losing our minds here," Claire says, because her kids are running around in the background of her interview. I mean, of course, she wants to seem relatable to the audience. Just because she's a politician doesn't mean she isn't facing the consequences of the lockdown. She's also stuck inside, managing her house and managing her job and her family. I mean, she's just like you. Yes, so your campaign is backed by billionaire philanthropist Miles Bron, founder of the tech giant Alpha, who, you know, has dozens of companies from Alpha Cosmos to Alpha Car, Alpha Shop, Jake Tapper goes on to say, as he names a handful of other companies all under the Alpha umbrella. So this company is huge, and the fact that Claire's campaign is being backed up by this billionaire who owns it is quite impressive. Now, speaking of Alpha, let me introduce you to Lionel. Lionel is sitting in the conference room of an Alpha research lab, and since they are all in lockdown, it's just Lionel and one other employee at this lab. The employee is wearing like a hazmat suit, wheeling a cart around, and Lionel is sitting on a Zoom call with a handful of scientists that also work with Alpha. This Zoom call looks quite intense. I know, but what can I do?" he tells the group. "You can tell him no," one man says. "Yeah, how about no?" the rest of the group chimes in. "Lionel, you're a scientist, not a publicist. You can't keep making excuses for every one of Miles Bron's insane whims," they go on to say. "But, I mean, genius always looks like insanity at first though, right? Isn't that how he became Miles Bron?" Lionel says. He goes on to explain how Miles is always faxing him ideas in the middle of the night because he doesn't own a phone. And he starts reading some of these faxes, and he kind of implies that these are like not good ideas. Like, Miles sends him a fax about how like dogs are robots. Like, I don't know, he just has like the most like random ideas, and Lionel just starts like reading them to the people on the Zoom call, and they're not impressed. "Remember, child equals NFT? We all laughed, but then the Crypto Kids app paid for this building," he adds. Now, while all of this is happening, Lionel gets a delivery box. "We know, never bet against Miles Bron, we know it, but he's asking us to put a volatile substance on a manned flight," one of the men on the call says. Now, the rest of the callers seemed concerned that Miles's plan isn't going to work and that this company is going to fail. "This is science, not a religion. Remember that, Lionel, because if your name is on this and it fails, it will sink you forever," they tell him. So it seems like Lionel works for this Alpha research lab, which again is owned by billionaire Miles Bron. And it seems like Miles wants to put this like weird substance on like a spaceship, and the rest of the people at this research lab don't want to do this because it's dangerous, it's not a good idea, they're worried it's going to fail, and of course if that fails, the company will fail and their jobs will be in jeopardy. But it seems like Lionel doesn't really know how to tell Miles no. Regardless, Lionel opens up the package, which contains a brown box and a note that says, "Love, Miles." It's the exact same box as the one that Claire just received. Now, we go back to Claire's news interview, and she's like going on about how she's the hard line on climate change, and if that scares people, then they should go stick their head back in the sand. So she sounds like very intense, and the camera pulls back. And we can see Claire on the TV in a room full of people partying. And mind you, this is the middle of the day and in the middle of the pandemic, so there really should not be a party going on right now. There's no mass in sight, but there is somebody spinning a fire baton. Crazy. Birdie, a beautiful blonde middle-aged woman who's completely done up and holds a martini glass, says, "I am so bored." "Peg," she calls out and waits for a quick moment before yelling louder. "Peg," she says, clearly bored, even though there's a party going on in her house. Yeah, there's literally like 50, 100 people in her living room all partying and dancing and having fun, yet Birdie is sitting there saying that she is completely bored. Her assistant Peg walks over carrying a large black package, and Birdie tells her that she is so bored and she begs Peg for her cell phone. But Peg's like, "No, remember, you're not supposed to have any phones." The two friends sitting next to Birdie ask her like, "Wait, why aren't you allowed to have a phone?" And Birdie's like, "Because Peg is afraid that I will tweet an ethnic slur again." So we learned that Birdie agreed not to use her phone for the rest of this media cycle because she can't be trusted. Anytime she has her phone, she tweets, and basically anytime she speaks, she says something wrong, inappropriate, and insulting. So Birdie tries to explain to her friends that she didn't know that the word that she used referred to Jewish people. She thought that that word just like referred to something else, and Peg is like, girl, you are just like so dumb. You can tell that Peg, her assistant, is just very frustrated at dealing with Birdie's backlash and dealing with all of her like PR issues. We can also clearly see that Birdie is very out of touch and so self-absorbed. Peg opens up the package to reveal the same wooden box and note that Claire and Lionel also received. Birdie looks at this and she's like, oh my gosh, and she's like so excited, and she grabs a note and she's like, oh, love from Miles. Meanwhile, Claire calls Lionel once her interview is complete, and the two start discussing this box. All right, genius, so what is this thing? She asks. Well, it's a Miles invitation, Lionel responds. Well, duh, but I mean, what is it? It's just like a block of wood, Claire responds. So now we know that Claire and Lionel know each other, and they're both friends with Miles Bron, the billionaire who created Alpha. Miles is backing Claire's political campaign, and Lionel works for the Alpha Research Lab. Lionel inspects this box, and let me describe to you guys this box. It's just like a big wooden box that doesn't have any openings. It doesn't have like a little flap. It doesn't have like a little something, like a little zipper, nothing. It's literally just as if someone just like put like a block of wood in front of you. So Lionel starts like inspecting the box with a flashlight, and he's like knocking on it to see if like maybe it'll pop open, but it doesn't budge. Claire answers a call from Birdie, who is currently hosting that huge party, and she three-ways her into the call. Okay, how do you open this thing? Birdie asks. Lionel can hear people in the background of her call, and he's like, should you really be having a party right now since they're in peak pandemic? It's fine. They're all in my pod. It's fine. Has anyone heard from Duke? Birdie says. No, Claire and Lionel respond. So let's talk about Duke, because he is a very interesting character, and he is played by Dave Bautista, who you guys might know from Guardians of the Galaxy. He was really amazing in this role, and his character Duke is just insane. Like, he's crazy. So Duke is this like huge, muscular, bulky, thick guy with like a beard and tattoos everywhere. I mean, he really gives like Jersey Shore. I don't know, he gives like a thicker Pauly D. So he is standing there wearing like a little tank top and a little hat, and he has his tattoos and his muscles everywhere. So this has gotten some attention recently, so obviously I would like to speak on this. And the answer is no, Jimmy Kimmel. I do not hate boobs. Boobs give us many useful things, he continues to say to the camera. Like, what on earth is Duke even talking about? His 20-something girlfriend, Whiskey, enters the video frame. I love my boobs, she says. They're so much fun. Oops, sorry, feminist, she says before just walking out of frame, and Duke continues filming his video. Now, Duke seems to be some sort of like red pill streamer. I mean, he's giving like podcast bro, if you guys know what I mean. Like, he's giving that he gets on there and says that women aren't anything, that men are the alphas and blah, blah, blah. Like, he's just giving a bro. So while he's filming his YouTube video, we can hear someone in the distance calling his name. We see that it's his little small cute mother who's walking around holding a laundry basket. Duke stops filming, he runs into the house, and he goes up to his mom and is like, shut up, like, I've told you this a million times, when I'm filming, don't talk to me. His mother, of course, slaps him across his face because he's being so rude, and Duke is like, oh my God, and he like apologizes for telling her to shut up. So even though Duke is a big guy, he is clearly a little scared of his tiny little mom, and he also lives with his mom. Yeah, he was filming his like bro podcast video in his mom's garage. So he probably preaches to his audience about how men rule the world and blah, 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 yet he still lives with his mom, and she also does his laundry. Anyways, the mom walks off and tells him that he got a delivery that's in the kitchen. Duke goes and he sees that he also has that same wooden box that the rest of the group received, and he calls his other friends to discuss it. So it's clear that Claire, Lionel, Birdie, and Duke are all friends, and they're all friends with Miles Bron. Lionel realizes that the box is a stereogram, and he like focuses his vision on it, revealing an arrow. He presses on the arrow and the box opens up. Once it's open, it becomes like this flat like top, and it looks like it's another puzzle. There's these like 4 little squares, and in one of these squares, there's these blue and red circles that kind of look like marbles. Should we group these by color maybe? Peg asks. What about by size? Wait, should I weigh them? Lionel says. No, it's 8x8. Wait, this is a chessboard. This is a chess endgame. It's set up for a mate in one, Claire says, realizing that she figured it out. She moves a piece and then another one of the square opens, revealing X's and O's, kind of like a tic-tac-toe game. But the game has already been played with X's winning, so what's the point of this? Peg realizes that it's actually Morse code with dots and dashes because there's like a little Morse code clicker at the bottom of the game. Lionel enters the code and another square pops open. I mean, this is like insane. It's just like a puzzle within a puzzle within a puzzle. And anytime they unlock a new puzzle, another puzzle reappears. They have to move different parts. Like, it is insane. And they're all working together to try to open this box. I mean, even Duke's mom gets involved. She's like, wait, I think that N means that this is like a compass. And they move the thing north. And that final square opens, revealing this like old-fashioned music reader, which starts playing a song. Birdie's like, let me ask like Alexa to Shazam this song. And she goes up to this like thing that looks like an Alexa. And she's like, Alexa, Shazam this song. Alexa, Shazam this song. Peg looks back at her assistant, and she's just like, oh my God, like she is such an idiot. And she continues trying to figure out what this song is. But one of the party guests actually recognizes the song and explains that it's a musical puzzle based on just one tune. And when you layer the tune on top of itself, it starts to change and turn into a beautiful new structure. Lionel listens to this and it gives him an idea, and he's like, okay, I think I can make this work. Meanwhile, Birdie realizes that the Alexa she's speaking to is a lamp. She's like, wait, it's not an Alexa, it's a lamp. Like, of course, that's why it's not Shazamming the song. And she joins Peg and they continue opening this box. In the middle of the box is like a flat circle. So Lionel lifts it up, causing the wood to cut off and spin around a few times before it goes back into place, revealing 4 new puzzle squares. I know, it's just insane. The fact that Miles is making his friends jump through all these hoops and solve all of these weird puzzles just to open this box is ridiculous. And it doesn't really seem like the friend group enjoys doing this. Like, they're all kind of annoyed being like, oh my God, like what's next? Like, how do we just get this box open? So the group plays the 4 new puzzles, each one again opening up the next puzzle. And they finally get to the last puzzle in this stupid box. Okay, all together now. 1, 2, 3. Lionel says, and they flip a switch at the same time. The box closes fully again, and then it opens fully, revealing a silver onion in the middle. The onion opens, like it literally blossoms like an awesome blossom. And there's a blue card inside that says, "Dear friends, my beautiful disruptors, my closest inner circle. We could all use a moment of normalcy. And so you are cordially invited for a long weekend on my private island where we will celebrate the bonds that connects us. And I hope your puzzle solving skills are whetted because you will also be competing to solve the mystery of my murder. Travel details to come. Please forward any dietary restrictions. Love and all my kisses, Miles." Birdie is just overjoyed at the fact that she gets to go to Miles's private island and enjoy a weekend of luxuries. Duke is also really excited about this, and he goes looking for his spear gun so he can start packing. Lionel is more quiet and curious about this, weekend away, but Birdie dances around the party excitedly. She's like twirling in her dress and she just looks so cute and excited to just go hang out with her friends for the weekend. But there is one person who isn't that excited about this trip. Andi. Andi is sitting down in a robe. There's a towel on her head, so she just got out of the shower, and she looks very sad. We can see that she is also holding a card that says, "Love Miles." So she got a package too. She's sitting in what looks like a storage room, maybe a garage. There's like boxes around everywhere, and she grabs a hammer. And she puts on some goggles and she goes to the wooden box and she just starts smashing it. She wasn't on the call with the other group, trying to figure out how to open this box delicately. No, she doesn't have time for this. She just breaks down the box, and once it's broken enough, she finds the blue card with the invitation to the island. She reads it while breathing deeply. And she looks a bit stressed and angry reading this note. Everyone else in this friend group is kind of excited to have a weekend away with Miles on his private island, but Andi isn't. She doesn't look excited whatsoever, but we don't know why. Not yet. Now, remember Detective Benoit Blanc from the first movie? Well, of course, he's here too, and he's sitting inside his bathtub playing Among Us while on a Zoom call with his friends. His friends say that they all know he's the imposter, referring to the video game, and Blanc is so confused by this. He's like, this game just doesn't make any sense. So his friends are like, why don't we just play a different game? But he's like, no, I appreciate what you guys are trying to do for me, because his friends are worried about him. His partner, Philip, told them that he hasn't left the bathtub for an entire week. Oh, there's no way that I've been in this bathtub for a week, he says. But we can see his surroundings and there's literally like food on the floor. There's dishes piled up next to him. There's a stack of books besides him. There's wine bottles all over the place. I mean, it's just clear that Benoit has basically been living in the bathtub, eating inside of it, drinking inside of it, reading his books, and even doing Zoom calls with his friends in the bathtub. So it's clear that the pandemic has not been good for Detective Benoit Blanc. He explains to his friends that he just goes a little insane between cases because his mind is just fueled up, but he has nowhere to drive it. He doesn't want a vacation. He wants danger, a hunt, a challenge. He wants a great case. Blanc, there's someone here for you with the box, his partner calls out. So we know what that means. Blanc is headed to Greece. Yes, Blanc is so excited about this vacation. In fact, he's the first one to arrive at the dock where the boat will pick everyone up and take them to Miles's private island. He's sitting on his suitcase wearing a really nice breezy outfit that of course includes a face mask. He looks down at his watch like confused as to why no one else has arrived yet. I mean, of course, he doesn't even know if more people are arriving since the invitation didn't name any other guests. But as he's sitting there staring down at his watch, the next guest appears, Lionel the scientist. He walks up, he sees Blanc sitting there, and Blanc gets up to go greet him, but Lionel literally ignores him. He doesn't even say, hi, who are you? Nothing. He just looks at Blanc and then starts to looking at his phone. Blanc is like, okay, I guess I won't introduce myself to you. And suddenly the next guest arrives, Claire the politician. Lionel warmly greets her. She notices Blanc, but ignores him too. Soon after, Birdie pulls up looking amazing. I mean, all of her looks throughout this movie were insane. She looked so beautiful, so girly, so fashionable in every single scene. So she pulls up to the dock looking super glamorous, wearing a face mask too. Well, not an actual face mask. She's wearing one of those fashion mesh chain masks where, yes, it's covering your mouth, but there's holes in the chain. So technically it doesn't fully cover your mouth and technically it doesn't count as an official face mask. Of course, she's not wearing one. I mean, that's such a Birdie thing to do. And of course, she brought her assistant Peg along with her. I love Birdie, but it seems like she cannot function on her own. I mean, Peg does everything for her. So the fact that she brought her to a vacation is hilarious to me because why does Peg need to be there? Birdie is sitting in the front seat of the golf cart and Peg is stuffed in the back with all of her luggage. I mean, it's insane. But anyways, Birdie gets out of the golf cart and she says hi to her friends, expecting to give them a huge hug, but Claire and Lionel don't really lean in for a hug because it's the pandemic. You're not supposed to be touching, hugging, or even being near other people. So they kind of just stare back at Birdie, but she's already moved on from Claire and Lionel. She's staring at who's behind them, Detective Blanc. Well, hello, stranger danger, she flirtatiously says. Wait a second, are you Benoit Blanc? Lionel finally asks. Claire's like, wait a second, yeah, you're the famous detective that solved that case with, what was it again, with the ballerina, she says. Yes, that is me, Blanc confirms, and he tells them that he knows exactly who they are as well. Lionel, the famous scientist, Claire, the politician, and Birdie, of course, the fashion icon. Suddenly, the group is startled by the sound of this super loud engine. They all turn to the beginning of the dock, and that's when they see Duke and Whiskey pull up. The two are riding a motorcycle. Duke is not even wearing a helmet, and Whiskey is firing his gun in the air. I mean, this couple is just insane. They park the bike and they go greet the rest of the group. And I will say, Duke and Whiskey look really good together, despite Duke being really obnoxious. He's pretty attractive and Whiskey is stunning. She shows up wearing this white top, these little white booty shorts, and she's just gorgeous. Crew, we have arrived. The disruptors have assembled, Duke excitingly says. And this was kind of giving Avengers Assemble to me, which is hilarious because Dave Bautista is, I guess he's kind of an Avenger, right? Since he's part of the Guardians of the Galaxy. So I thought that was funny, and I don't know if it was kind of a nod to him being a part of the Avengers. So you all remember Whiskey, right? He says as he grabs her waist. Of course, Whiskey, Claire the politician says, not too excited to be seeing her. I'm not sure if there's some bad blood between them, or maybe Claire doesn't even care about Whiskey because she's not part of the friend group. She's just a girlfriend, or maybe Claire feels threatened by Whiskey since she's young and hot. Claire is really pretty too, but it's not the same. Claire is honestly a hot mess, how I said. Her makeup is always smudgy. There's always mascara everywhere. Her hair's always crazy. She's just not really that put together. Anyways, Detective Blanc, why are you here in Greece? Claire says. Blanc explains that He was invited by Miles, even though they've never met. Everyone is really confused at this point, but then Lionel's like, oh my gosh, I got it. You're here to help solve the murder mystery game. Oh, duh, of course everyone chimes in. They're like, that is such a Miles thing to do. I mean, he hosts a murder mystery party and then he hires the best detective in the world to come like help solve the case. Blanc is like, yeah, I guess we'll see if I do solve the case. This huge yacht suddenly pulls up to the dock. And at the same time, a car drives up to the group. A man gets out and explains to them that the yacht will take them to Miles' private island, that it's about a 2-hour journey. And he also needs everyone to remove their masks and stick out their tongue. Now, this like random mystery guy is played by Ethan Hawke. I think he was just like doing like a quick little cameo, but it's like the most random thing ever. Birdie like sticks out her tongue without hesitation, without even asking what he's about to put in her mouth. And Ethan Hawke pulls out this like thing that looks like a silver gun and he just shoots something into her mouth. Birdie seems kind of winded by it, but then she's fine. No pineapple in that, right? Duke don't dance with pineapple, Duke says, speaking in the third person, which is so weird. There's no pineapple in this. Ethan Hawke responds while he goes around to everyone, shooting this random air into their mouths and slapping on these white wristbands. So it seems like I'm the odd man out. You're all friends? Blanc asks Claire, who is standing next to him. Claire explains that yes, they're all friends with Miles Bron and that he does one of these weekend reunions every single year. But her conversation is interrupted by Ethan Hawke asking her to open her mouth. Now, Birdie uses this moment to like slide up right next to Blanc, who she clearly finds very attractive. She's like stroking Blanc's shirt and she's just like touching him. And she says that after 8 years of doing these trips, he's the only new person to be invited. Why is that? Blanc looks like uncomfortable as Birdie flirtatiously touches his shirt, but finally Blanc gets his mouth shut and he's told that he won't need to wear his mask anymore because he's, quote, good. Blanc is like, wait, are you sure I can take off my mask? And Ethan Hawke is like, yeah, you're good, without any further elaboration. I guess this is like some rich person's cure to like COVID, because remember, this is set before the vaccines had come out. So maybe since Miles is a billionaire, he had his like own cure to the virus before anyone else did. It's just insane. But after everyone receives their shots, they all take off their face masks and they start making their way onto the yacht. But there's still one person left to arrive. Andi. She pulls up looking very different than the last time we saw her. Andi is stunning. It's actually unreal how beautiful Andi is. She's wearing this glamorous dress. She has a short blonde bob and she's wearing these like super stunning sunglasses. I mean, she looks good and she looks wealthy. Holy Birdie says. Clearly her and the rest of the group are surprised to see Andi there. They all load onto the yacht and everyone is kind of like spread out around it. Andi stands at the back of the boat alone, staring off into the distance. Now, Blanc couldn't help but notice how everyone seemed really nervous and kind of shocked at the arrival of Andi. He asked Lionel about it, and Lionel explains that she was, or is, a part of their friend group. She actually started Alpha with Miles 10 years ago, but Miles cut her out of the company completely and didn't give her a dime. Wait, that's Cassandra Brand? Blanc asks, familiar with her name. Andi, yeah. Lionel responds. Blanc is really surprised at the fact that Andi was still invited to this group trip if she and Miles ended on bad terms. No, the real question isn't why did he invite her, it's why did she show up? Lionel responds. Blanc stares back at Andi, wondering the same thing. Finally, after 2 hours, the yacht arrives at Miles' private island. A glass dock with these like super cheesy statues elevates from the water. Like it's insane, it's ridiculous. And Miles sits on a lounge chair near the dock playing his guitar. Now, Miles the billionaire looks pretty simple. I don't know what I was expecting, but he looks like normal. He's barefoot, he's wearing a gray t-shirt with some linen pants. He looks super casual, and just by his appearance alone, you would never think that he was a billionaire. Again, he just is super simple, but of course there's really nothing simple about him. He owns this entire island and the property is unreal. His house is the size of a resort. There's this beautiful infinity pool, cabanas and lounge chairs all over the place, and at the very top of the property is a glass onion, literally. It looks more like an egg to me, but it's like this huge glass dome in the shape of an onion. So this property is insane. The group gets off the yacht and Birdie runs up to Miles and gives him a huge hug. You're serenading us with my song, Birdie says. Yeah, and I'm playing it on the guitar that Paul wrote it on. I know, legit, right? But look at your face, it was so worth it, Miles proudly responds. He then just tosses the guitar on the floor. Yeah, he just tosses it. It like probably breaks or gets damaged because he just tossed it on the ground. But that just shows how he doesn't even care. Like, that's how rich he is. You know, he can just drop insane money just to make his friends smile for like a second. And I guess that's how he shows his love for them and also buys their friendship. Miles goes to hug Claire. He kind of ignores Peg, who's just Birdie's assistant, and then he gives Duke a huge hug. But then he greets Whiskey, Duke's girlfriend. "I love your necklace," he says. "Oh, this old thing?" She flirtatiously responds. He leans in for a hug and they hug for just a little bit too long. I mean, their hug is quite intimate and kind of sexual. Like, they're like grabbing each other. You can tell that Duke notices this, but he just turns his eyes away and pretends that his best friend is not all up on his girlfriend. Clearly uncomfortable with what's going on, Duke interrupts this intimate hug by saying, "So, Benoit Blanc, huh? Man, when you throw a murder mystery party, you do it right," he says. Whiskey kind of plays the long hug off as Blanc meets Miles. He tells Miles that he is so grateful to be here, but Miles isn't even paying attention to him. He's paying attention to what's behind Blanc. "Andi, you're here," he says, shocked. "I am," she quietly says. Miles just stares at her in shock, and then Duke asks when the murder mystery starts. Miles snaps out of it. He turns to the group and says patience and that he loves them all. "We've got a great weekend ahead of us. Just our gang, just us," he says. But suddenly a random man walks by and he's like, "Hey, bro." And Miles is like, "Oh, like, sorry, like, this is just, don't even worry about it. This is Daryl. He's just staying here. He's kind of going through some things, but don't worry about it. He's not part of the experience." Now, what really made this interesting to me is that the actor playing Daryl is actually the same actor who played Trooper Wagner from the first Knives Out movie. I don't know if this was just like a coincidence or just like a funny nod to the first movie, but I thought that was interesting. Anyways, first let's do a proper tour of the Glass Onion, Miles tells them. "Oh, the Glass Onion, like our bar. I love that," Birdie says. They all start to walk off and Andi and Blanc hang behind. "This rich people stuff is kind of weird to me," he says, and Andi's like, "Yeah, I know, this is a lot." They both start to like kind of bond over this. Andi introduces herself to Blanc, and eventually the group makes it to this huge house. And Lionel's like, "How many staff members does it take to run a place like this?" But Miles says that he sent everyone home because he just wants them to have a normal weekend like the old days. Meanwhile, a robot is carrying their luggage behind them, so really there's nothing normal about this. Suddenly, a loud dong goes off and Miles explains that it goes off every single hour, that it's there to keep him centered in time. Honestly, Miles says a lot of BS, like the things he says just don't make any sense, and it sounds like he wants to sound deep and very, just intelligent, but what he says honestly lacks substance, so he always just sounds like really silly and stupid. Anyways, he tells the group that he assigned them their rooms named after chakras and that their wristbands are biorhythm monitors that act as a key to their rooms and that it'll guide them to their assigned room. Again, just insane. All right, so everyone go freshen up. Let's go meet by the pool in a little bit. We'll have a chill afternoon and then the game will begin, Miles says as they all walk off to find their rooms. Except he stops Andi before she can walk away. "Listen, Andi, I'm really glad you're here," he says as he puts his hand on her shoulder. Andi just like looks down at his hand, kind of like with disgust, and then she walks off. I mean, clearly there's a lot of tension between them. "Hey, Blanc, can I get a quick word, please?" Miles asks. The two go inside the Glass Onion and it's beautiful. Everything is made of glass. Even Miles' desk and his chairs are glass. It's insane. Outside on the roof, there's a spinning car and Miles explains that this is his car. It's a one of a kind and that he takes it anywhere he goes. "Mr. Blanc, what are you doing here?" he asks. Blanc is confused. "You invited me," he says. "No, I didn't." "Yeah, you sent me a box." "Wait, you received a box?" Miles asks. "Yes," Blanc says, and he shows him the blue invitation that was inside the box, and Miles is like, "Wait a second, this is crazy. Like, yeah, this is the invite that I sent out, but I didn't send it to you." "Wait, how many of these boxes did you create?" Blanc says. 5, one for each of my friends." "Okay, and there was no test boxes, no prototypes?" Blanc says. "No, my box guy barely got the 5 done in time." Blanc's like, "Okay, this is weird. Wait, once the puzzles are complete, can the box be reset?" Blanc says. Miles jumps up and he's like, oh my god, someone reset the boxes. They sent it to you as a gag. Miles is doing a murder mystery party. Let's invite Benoit frickin' Blanc, Miles says, laughing at this prank. So earlier, his friends thought that Miles was the one that invited Blanc as part of this murder mystery game. But now Miles is like, I didn't invite you. And now he thinks that his friends are the one that invited him. So what's the truth? Who actually invited Detective Benoit Blanc? That's why Blanc isn't really laughing. Like, he's kind of embarrassed at the fact that he showed up to a party that he wasn't actually invited to. And he also feels weird at the fact that like Miles didn't invite him, his friends didn't invite him. So again, he's just confused as to why he's here. But anyways, Miles reassures him, telling him that it's fine, that he would love to have him here for the weekend. That he'll play the perfect role at his murder mystery party. Listen, just have fun this weekend. I'll see you by the pool, okay? Oh, and try to solve the murder if you can, but I will say it's pretty next level, Miles tells him before leaving the Glass Onion. Now, the pool is, of course, huge and the whole area looks luxurious. Birdie walks out in this orange bikini, clearly feeling herself, and this bikini is amazing. It's so cute. I'm like, I need to find something like this. It's just so flattering. She's wearing like a body chain. She's wearing these huge high heels. She just looks like a superstar. And Lionel and Claire are already there hanging out by the pool chairs, and Birdie joins them. She tells Lionel that he's way too hot to be a scientist, and she's like, oh, Claire, you also look really cute, but she kind of says it sarcastically because Claire is just wearing like a brown one piece. She's wearing one of those like mom like visor hats, and she's also wearing a robe to like cover up in, so very different from what Birdie is wearing. A bright, fashionable orange bikini with like stilettos. I mean, Birdie was really feeling herself. Well, that was until Whiskey came out of the pool looking like a literally majestic mermaid. Birdie looks at her and she's just like, ugh, like you can tell that Birdie feels intimidated by Whiskey. Now, Blanc finally makes it to the pool, and his outfits in this movie are also really amazing. He's wearing this like blue shirt with like matching shorts. It's like a striped set with like a little neck scarf. He looks amazing, and he goes over to where Miles is sitting. Miles is playing his guitar, Whiskey is sitting next to him, and Duke is in the pool. Blanc, you made it! Have a dip! Grab one of these. Jared Leto sent them over. These are some hard kombuchas. They're pretty good, Miles says. Blanc stares down at the cooler, and he's like, well, I guess so. I mean, I'm on vacation, and he reaches into the cooler to grab a drink. Now, the cooler is actually a mini version of the blue Porsche we saw earlier spinning on the roof. Blanc calls this out. He's like, oh my god, it's your baby blue car. And Duke is like, yeah, isn't that car iconic? Hey Miles, do you remember when you almost pancaked me with it on the road that night at, Anderson Cooper's birthday party? Coop's parties are amazing. They're so memorable. Miles finishes his sentence. Blanc, fully clothed, walks in the pool, sipping on his drink. I don't know why he's fully clothed, but I thought that was like really funny. And he like is sipping, his drink, and he's just like enjoying this vacation. Duke gets out of the pool, and that's when Blanc notices that strapped to his Speedo is a gun. That is quite the piece, Blanc says. Yep, I never am without it, Duke responds. So I see. Yeah, I mean, you never know when shit's gonna go down, Duke says. But Blanc isn't even paying attention to this conversation anymore. He's staring at the edge of the pool, where Claire and Lionel are standing in the corner having a very private and kind of intimate conversation. I mean, it seems like there's something going on between them. Okay, I was really craving a Poppy. I feel like we needed this to get us through the rest of this video. This is the cherry limeade. It is so freaking good. So let's pop this open. Little ASMR moment. There we go. This one is so good. Amazing. So anyways, Peg runs over to Birdie, who's now sitting alone. Birdie, you gotta tell him, she says. I know, Birdie responds. I'm serious, you have to. I will, Birdie interrupts her. Okay, you just gotta go beg. When he goes to his room, just follow him and then do it, Peg reminds her. I will take care of him. Don't worry, Birdie tells her. Now, we have no idea what they're talking about, what Birdie has to go talk to him about. I mean, we don't know anything, but it seems like it's very serious. Birdie then looks across the pool to see Miles and Whiskey together. Whiskey has her arm on his shoulder, and again, they just seem very flirty. I mean, this entire situation is so weird. They have no problem flirting and touching each other in front of everyone. And in front of Duke, who is huge, so he could easily beat up Miles if he really wanted to. Birdie is just so bothered by the scene. She tells Peg that she used to be on billboards and she used to be on magazines, and Miles was the one that was a nobody, and he was even surprised to be speaking to her. He was this little thing in her hand, and she preferred it that way. Again, I think Birdie is jealous and also sad at the fact that Whiskey is young and beautiful and that Miles is obsessed with her, and Birdie used to be her. She used to be the star of the show and Miles was nothing, but now the roles are reversed. Birdie then takes off her huge hat and sees that Andi is sitting next to her. Andi, hi, wow, oh my gosh, how long has it been? She nervously states. Clearly it's awkward between everyone and Andi. Since the trial, so a few months, Andi dryly responds. Ugh, the trial, that was not fun. I mean, for all of us, for everybody, right, Peg? Right, I'm uncomfortable. I'm gonna go for a swim, Birdie says. The day continues and it's getting closer to sunset. Blanc walks out to a different side of the patio area where Birdie, Peg, and Miles are sitting. He asks why there's a fax machine out there. I mean, like, that's so weird. And Birdie's like, well, Miles doesn't even have a phone. And she's like saying this while she puts her legs on Miles and like she's kind of sitting close to him. But as soon as Detective Blanc sits down, Birdie's like, oh, time to switch seats. So she gets up and she sits next to Blanc. I mean, it's really convenient, you know. I have one number. It goes to my fax machines all over the world, Miles explains, but Birdie interrupts him, noticing that Miles has her old magazine cover there on the coffee table. Oh, this is such a blast from the past, she excitedly says, holding the magazine up and like showing it to everyone. Meanwhile, Whiskey joins the conversation. She sits down next to Miles and she like puts her legs over his. Hi, she seductively says. Again, just so weird. So what first drew you all together? You're such an eclectic bunch, Blanc says. And I agree with him. This group is so weird. Their friendships don't seem genuine. They don't seem to have anything in common besides Miles. It's just a really odd group. I think disruptors recognize each other, Miles says. Blanc asks him to explain what a disruptor is, and Miles says Birdie is one every single time she opens her mouth. She says what other people are thinking. It's clear by her assistant Peg's face that she doesn't agree with what Miles is saying. Like, there's a difference between like, yeah, saying what you're thinking and also just saying something intelligent and not being rude, offensive, and inappropriate. So again, Peg's like, no, that's not really what Birdie is doing, but anyways, Miles and Birdie explain how she was very successful in the fashion world, but then she wore a Halloween costume that was a tribute to Beyonce, but it wasn't taken that way. And then she had a lot of time at home in sweatpants while she was recovering from this, PR fiasco. So she came out with designer, high-quality sweatpants just as the pandemic hit. She disrupted her own disruption. She made a killing, Miles proudly says. Duke, Lionel, and Claire come over and join them. Miles explains how Duke is a disruptor because he was the first influencer to have 1 million followers on Twitch. And Claire, who is just a simple beige soccer mom, is throwing grenades into politics. And what about Lionel, who didn't wait 10 years to start pushing the boundaries of science? He just did it. That's what I did with Alpha. He stops as Andi walks up to the group and corrects himself. That's what we did with Alpha. Disrupt, Miles says. And then he gets a little bit more serious and he leans closer to Blanc and he's like, I'm about to tell you something very important. Is your phone off? Blanc's like, I don't even have my phone on me. So Miles is like, okay, if you really want to shake things up, you break a norm and people get excited because you're busting up something people wanted broken in the first place. You have to ask yourself, am I the kind of person who will keep going? Will you break more things, break bigger things? Are you willing to break the thing that nobody wants to break? Because at that point, people are not going to be on your side. Even your partner will say you need to stop. Because as it turns out, nobody wants you to break the system itself. But that is what true disruption is. And that is what unites all of us. We all got to that line and we all crossed it, Miles proudly concludes. Andi claps sarcastically at his little speech. Wow, that was some real red pill stuff, Miles. The Andi that I built Alpha with, she believed it. He responds, oh, I believed it. Mr. Blanc, you're a detective, right? Yes, I am, Blanc shyly responds. Can you spot the real thing that this group has in common? Andi, come on, Lionel says, trying to, calm the mood. Oh, Lionel, everybody knows who Lionel works for. That's no secret. And we know who bankrolled Claire's campaign. But when nobody would touch Birdie with a 10-foot pole because she went on Oprah and compared herself to Harriet Tubman, in spirit, Birdie says. Who do you think showed up as an angel investor in Sweetie Pants? Huh? And Duke? When Duke got banned from Twitch for hawking rhino horn boner pills to teenage boys, there was 0 rhino in those pills, Duke defends himself. Who do you think set them up at YouTube and used their media empire to promote the stream? That is the common thread here. Every single one of you is holding on for dear life to Miles Bron's golden titties, and each of you will stab a friend in the back to hold on. That is what I believe, Andi says as she storms off, leaving the group in silence. Andi, wait, Claire says, and she goes after her. Wow, that was really real. Anyways, see you guys at 8, right? For dinner? See you all there, Miles says, and he leaves, not even acknowledging what Andi just said. How all of his, quote, friends there aren't actually there because they love Miles or even respect him. It's because they're all using him. And they all know it too. They all know that what Andi just said is the 100% truth. Like Miles said, I'm a truth teller. Some people can't handle it, Birdie says to Blanc. It's a dangerous thing to mistake speaking without thought for speaking the truth. Don't you think? He says. Birdie seems to miss his point completely, and she's like, are you calling me dangerous? Well, we'll see, he responds before leaving the group. Moments later, Lionel catches up to Claire at the side of the house, who again was chasing after Andi. Something's off, she tells him, motioning to Andi, who is up ahead and out of earshot, but she's like stumbling and she like catches herself on the wall. What do you mean? Lionel asks. I don't know. She's changed. What's she playing at? Claire responds. On the other side of the house, Miles walks up to the stairs leading to the house, and Peg runs up to him and stops him. She's like really nervous, but she tells him, please don't do this. Sorry, he says. Birdie showed me the statement that you want her to make to the press about Bangladesh, and if you make her go through with it, her name is destroyed. But you see, my resume is just Birdie J, Birdie J, Birdie J, so if you destroy her reputation, my reputation will also be destroyed, and she won't be able to find a new job. Miles interrupts her little speech, and he's like, I'm begging you, you gotta get her to make the statement. It's her only way out, he says. Peg seems really confused by this, and Miles like, okay. Good. And he just walks off, clearly not concerned about how Peg's reputation/future will be ruined if Birdie releases this statement, which again, we still don't know what that statement is about yet. All we know is that it has something to do with Bangladesh. Now, Peg and Miles weren't the only people on this staircase. Blanc was there too, listening in on this conversation, hiding behind a statue. The hourly dong goes off and Blanc continues to wander around. He sees Duke jog by and Blanc lights a cigar and alarms go off telling him that this is a no smoking garden. So he like panics, he throws a cigar into a pond, and then another alarm goes off telling him to keep the water clean. So Blanc is like freaked out by this and he just like runs away. We follow Duke on his run, and when he passes by this huge glass window, he stops. Behind that window are Miles and his girlfriend Whiskey, getting frisky. Yeah, he's laying down on the bed, Whiskey is on top of him in her bikini, and they're about to, you know what? Duke watches him through the window, squeezing his sweat towel in his fist. Like, what on earth is going on? The fact that his best friend is doing this to him while Duke is on this island and could potentially run into them is insane. It's one thing to like flirt in front of each other and like whatever, but like to actually like go and be intimate with each other is just crazy. Duke hears a twig snap, so he turns behind him, but there's no one there. He turns back to watching. Are you gonna do it for me? Whiskey asks Miles. Miles says, like reaching for her breasts. Behind Duke, Blanc sticks his head out from behind the bush. He's just wandering around the island, gathering information about everyone here. But why? It's now time for the murder mystery dinner party to begin. The style of this dining/living room is insane. It's like this like 70s, 80s mix with modern luxury. It has a living room with these beautiful red couches, high ceilings. The walls and the ceilings are glass so you can see the night sky. There's chandeliers everywhere, and there's also a dozen glass sculptures on these black stands all around the room. Welcome, gang. A few cocktails before I'm murdered. I think I remember everyone's favorite drink, and we also have some tamales, Miles says as he points to his bar and starts handing drinks out to everybody. Oh my gosh, is this my Cuban breeze? Birdie excitedly says, holding her drink. Miles is happy at the fact that like everyone's having a fun time. He's giving everyone their favorite cocktail, and he even gives them a glass with their own name on it. Well, he gives one to everyone except Peg. He literally hands Peg just like a red solo cup, like the ones that you use to play beer pong. Doesn't even have her name on it. It's not even a glass. Like, he couldn't even be bothered to give her a glass cup because she just doesn't matter to him. Blanc reaches for a tamal, but it's too spicy for him and he starts like choking on it. And Miles explains to him that the hot sauce on the tamales is from Jeremy Renner's collection, and he even tosses a few bottles to Blanc for him to keep. Hey Andi, I'm hoping your favorite drink is still whiskey soda, he says, offering her the drink. Andi takes it and she just stares back at him again. She does not like this man. He starts to say to her, but he's cut off by Claire, calling over saying that this place is the Tate Modern and asks why he framed a printed photo of the Mona Lisa in the middle of this living room. Yeah, literally in the middle of this insane, already luxurious room is a photo of the Mona Lisa behind a glass wall. And it's huge. Miles looks at this and he kind of acts a little bit sly, and that's when the rest of the group realize that that's the real Mona Lisa painting. It's not a copy, it's not a fake, it's the real deal, and it's here in this living room. Claire and Lionel are just beyond shocked. Miles explains that it's just a short-term loan from the Louvre, that the pandemic really affected France, so they loaned it out to him to get some money during the lockdown. Check this out, he says, and he pulls out a lighter, igniting a flame. The painting is instantly covered with another layer of protective glass. Don't tell the insurance guys, but I had a little override button installed, he says, as he pushes down on this small, colorful sculpture of a jester. And when he pushes this down, the protective glass goes away. Miles says that his mom took him to see this painting when he was 6 and it changed his life. I don't even know how he would remember that at 6, but he's like, wow, this painting means the world to me. Yeah, it's a classic, Daryl says, before reminding them that he's not technically there and that he's leaving the dinner. Look, it all started with her. What did I say to you guys that first night we hung out at the Glass Onion? What did I say? That I want to be responsible for something that gets mentioned in the same breath as the Mona Lisa. Miles says. And what exactly does that mean? Blanc asks, because again, the way that Miles talks just doesn't really make sense. It means immortality. He wants to do something that's going to change, Birdie says, before being completely cut off by Claire. Wait a minute, Miles. Why do you have the Mona Lisa in your living room? She says. Now, Miles explains that in exactly 1 week, he's invited a dozen world leaders to come to this island where he's going to unveil the future. Miles holds up a tiny crystal-looking object. Blanc doesn't know what this is, and Miles literally tosses it to him, and Blanc barely catches it. That's a new solid hydrofuel. It's incredibly powerful, zero carbon emissions, derived from abundant seawater. I call it Clear, with a K, Miles proudly says. It's basically an affordable home power solution, and as he's talking about this, Claire looks so uncomfortable, and so does Lionel. Lionel actually looks angry. He puts his drink down, and the sound it makes the Mona Lisa protective glass pop back up, and Lionel looks stern and says, "No. I was clear with you. I told you I need 2 years minimum to test if it's safe. Claire and I are not going to be responsible for putting something out into the world before it's tested," he adds. But Miles smiles in his face and motions to the home. He's like, "Look up." And that's when it instantly clicks for Lionel and for Blanc and for everyone that this entire mansion, this entire property is powered from Clear. "Guys, we did it," Miles says. Clearly, he does not care about Lionel or Claire's opinions. They told him that Clear wasn't ready, but he went ahead and he used it anyways. "No, I'm out. This is reckless and you're gonna get somebody killed," Lionel says. But Miles stays positive and says, "It's already happening. Now, let's eat," he enthusiastically says, again ignoring how Lionel is feeling about the situation. The group makes their way to this large dining table that is placed in front of these old pillars, the type that you might see in Rome or somewhere like that. It literally looks like Miles took these pillars from Rome and just brought them here. It's crazy. Miles stands at the head of the table and talks to everyone, explaining that they can all bask in the sun for the next 3 days, but that while they're relaxing, they also have a task to complete. Because tonight in this room, his murder will be committed. They'll have to observe the crime, there will be clues around the island, and if by the end of the weekend, somebody is able to name the murder, tell them how they accomplished it, and what their motive was, they'll win the game. "Any questions?" Miles says, excited about this. "Well, what do we win?" Blanc asks. What do you mean? What do you want?" Miles asks. Blanc's like, "Oh, no, nothing. I'm just saying, you said we win, so I thought there'd be a prize, an iPad or something." "Okay, fine. Yeah, the winner gets an iPad," Miles says. He adds that he won't be playing dead the whole weekend. They can still, talk to him and hang out, but he's not going to help them. Blanc is like, "Wait, just to clarify, I don't need an iPad. That's not why I said it. I was just wondering about the prize." But Miles just ignores him and he goes back to explaining that this murder mystery game is designed to be difficult and that it'll take the entire weekend to solve. "Wow, well, this is truly delightful," Blanc says, excited to participate. "Oh, have we started already?" he adds. "Well, the murder hasn't happened yet, but yeah, why not? As Watson said to Holmes," Miles says, but he's cut off by Blanc. "It was Birdie who planted a remote device on a crossbow in revenge for you stealing her signature Ren diamond." Blanc proudly says. Miles stands there at the head of the table, frozen. He looks so angry and shocked at the fact that Blanc just solved this case so quickly. I mean, the game hadn't even started yet. Blanc gets up from his seat and he continues explaining to the guests how he solved the case. He knows that it's Birdie because of the seating arrangement. Where Birdie is sitting triangulates perfectly with the glass sculpture loaded with a dummy bolt aimed at Miles. He says that it's a Jayhawk crossbow. Jayhawk, Birdie J. He explains the other small clues around the island that he's already figured out, like a hedge in the garden that spells the letter B for Birdie, and he knew the motive because on the magazine cover of Birdie from earlier, she was wearing the red diamond. Blanc asks Miles to open up this pendant necklace that he's been wearing this entire time, and he's like, yeah, I saw that necklace and it's a bit, out of style with your breezy island style. Do you mind popping it open? Miles reluctantly pops open his pendant and inside is the red diamond. Birdie gasps. Just then, the fake arrow is shot, hitting Miles, and fake blood splashes out, and Miles looks so annoyed. While Blanc is very pleased with himself. He sits down and he's like, oh, that was such a thrill. Solving this mystery was so much fun. But again, Miles is annoyed at the fact that Blanc ruined the game. So he takes Blanc up to his office inside the Glass Onion so they can have a private conversation about it. Blanc is going off on about how fun that was to solve and how easy this was and how it was just a child puzzle. And Miles just throws an iPad at him. Oh, you're angry, Blanc says. No, Blanc, I'm just... What the hell, that was not the simplest thing to set up. I hired Gillian Flynn to write the whole thing. Oh, she's quite good, Blanc says. She's goddamn expensive is what she is. What am I supposed to do now? Play Yahtzee all weekend, he says. Mr. Bron, the truth is, I ruined your game on purpose and for a very good reason. I'm sorry, what? Miles says. I like the glass onion as a metaphor, an object that seems densely layered, but in reality, the center is in plain sight. Your relationship with these people may seem complex, but look at what you've done this weekend. It's crystal clear. You've taken 7 people, each of whom has a real-life reason to wish you harm, gathered them together on a remote island, and placed the idea of your murder in their heads. It's like putting a loaded gun on the table and turning off the lights, Blanc says. Well, come on, you can't be serious, Miles says, not really buying his concerns. Blanc goes on to explain, the motives behind each person for wanting to kill Miles. Lionel's is the threat to destroy his reputation. With Claire, Miles can threaten to support her opponent if she doesn't approve his power plant. Birdie, her sweatpants are made in a Bangladesh sweatshop and she's gonna take the fall for it. And Duke, well, of course, everyone knows why Duke would want to kill him. No, Duke doesn't know about that, Miles says. Yes, he does. Take my presence as a sign. For at least one person on this island, this is not a game, Blanc says. Oh my god, is this the famous napkin? I've heard of this story, Blanc says, pointing to something behind Miles's desk. Yeah, I sketched out the original idea for Alfin on a cocktail napkin, and I showed it to Andi one night at the Glass Onion. He says, pointing to the bar sign that now hangs in his office. Miles explains that the Glass Onion was their local bar that they would go to all the time, but that it was torn down a year after he created Alpha. With the napkin on the wall, there's also a Polaroid photo of all the friends together at the Glass Onion, and they look really close and happy and just like a good, genuine friend group, which is so different to how the group looks like now, so distant, so cold, so tense. Andi used to tell me the truth. Nobody does that now. It's all just fake smiles and agendas and people wanting what they think they're owed, hating you when you don't give it to them because that's what you're there for. I know it's probably hard to have sympathy for the poor tortured billionaire, but goddamn, I miss that bar, he says. Now, back at the house, the rest of the gang is still in the dining room hanging out, but they're not having a good time. There was already tension before the dinner started, especially from Claire and Lionel because of Clear. Now that the murder mystery game has been ruined/solved, everyone is just kind of hanging around awkwardly, getting drunk, not even talking to each other. Duke's phone keeps going off with Google alerts about how his channel is doing, and each time it dings, the Mona Lisa's glass wall pops up, which is annoying everyone. So Lionel tells him to just power off his phone. But Duke's no, I get my Google alerts for anything that involves myself, and I also have them turned on for any news about you guys. Birdie serves herself a fresh Cuban breeze and she joins the group in the living room. Thank God for Benoit Blanc. Oh my god, now we don't have to spend this entire weekend spelling hedges. Well, I'm out of here tomorrow. Tomorrow morning I'm gone, Duke says. But we just got here, Whiskey says from the floor. You can stay, have fun, he says, not even really caring about her. Fine, you're murdering my vibe, Whiskey says, and she gets up grabbing a bottle of tequila for herself. Lionel says that he's also going to go too, and Peg's like, yeah, Birdie, maybe we should also leave in the morning. But Birdie's like, no, I don't want to leave yet. Like, we've earned this. Come on, let's just get drunk and enjoy paradise for the weekend, she says. Yes, you've earned this, Andi says as she walks into the room. Everyone is awkward and no one knows how to even talk to her or even be around her. Are we even going to talk about the elephant in the room? Claire asks. Oh, am I the elephant? Andi says. Claire's like, yeah, you are. And she's definitely a little drunk at this point. So she's like slurring her words and she's very like agitated right now. Lionel asks Andi why she's even here in the first place. Claire jumps up from the couch yelling that they know the situation isn't fair and that they stuck with Miles through the trial. And the reason why, it's easy math. Like, of course, they're going to stick to Miles' side because they benefit from him more than they benefit from Andi. So again, we know that Miles basically cut Andi out of Alpha and she was left with nothing. Well, Andi took Miles to court for half of the company and all of their friends testified against her. They all stood by Miles during the trial and that broke Andi's heart. They all betrayed her. You keep telling us that we owe you. You made money off Alpha all those years. You did fine and you got yours. Claire continues to yell. No, he got his from me. All of it. My life was taken away from me by someone, by everyone in this room. My life. Do you even know what that means? Andi says. Birdie's like, okay, well, what I think Claire is trying to say is that we're sorry. We feel bad for you. What do you want? Claire's like, yeah, what do you want? Do you want money? Do you want revenge? Do you want to slit Miles' throat or take us all down? I want the truth, Andi yells. And she yells so loud that the Mona Lisa cover pops up. I can give you that, Duke says, and he gets up from the table. I can give you the truth. Now, the truth is that we are all holding on to that golden tit. Yeah, we're all playing the game here, honey. You lost, he explains, and he says that he's just tired of pretending that she's the victim in this game. Duke finishes his drink as Andi shoves past him and exits the room. There she is. There's the Andi that I know, he says as Miles and Blanc rejoin the group. Claire is just like stumbling around at this point. She is so drunk. She like bumps into Duke before sitting on the couch next to Lionel. Lionel and Claire tell Miles that they're leaving in the morning, but Miles tries to stop them. No, you guys aren't leaving. We're supposed to be having a champagne brunch on the beach tomorrow. Come on, guys, let's get this party going again. Come on, Birdie, dance with me, pretty lady. Birdie's like, I mean, she's like the only person here who seems to kind of enjoy spending time with Miles, despite how annoying he is and despite how, again, she benefits from him. So she's like, I don't really want to dance, but then she reluctantly stands up and starts dancing with him while Blanc looks around the room. Wait, where's Andi? He asks. Yeah, where is Andi? Miles says. Hey, Duke's smiling. There it is. That's my guy. What's going on? You look like you got good news, he continues as he and Birdie stop dancing to listen to Duke's response. I was wondering why my googs were blowing up. Googs are what he calls his Google alerts. The views on my channel are off the charts. You gotta see this, Duke says. Birdie and Miles are so happy for him. Miles goes over to look at Duke's phone screen. Numbers like this, maybe we can talk alpha news, Duke says. You bet your ass. Come here, Miles says, and gives him a huge hug. Birdie's like, oh my God, I'm so happy for you. Can I see? And he's like, no, he doesn't want to show Birdie his YouTube views. So Miles turns to the group and he's like, see, everything works out in the end. You've just got to keep the faith, Miles tells them, encouraging them to stay. Lionel and Claire hesitantly agree to stay, but again, they don't look too excited to be here. Literally, the only people having a good time right now are Birdie and Miles. Miles goes to the bar to pour himself a new drink to just get this party started again. 5 minutes ago, Blanc was telling me that this whole party was a very dangerous idea because you guys all hate me so much that one of you would actually want to kill me. Meanwhile, Birdie spins in circles in her colorful dress. She looks stunning. And it seems like, again, this party is starting to come back to life. Miles sits next to Duke, putting his drink down on the coffee table next to Duke's cup, and the two just sit there, watching Birdie spin and dance in this beautiful dress. Birdie is getting more excited as she spins, and she's like, come on guys, let's dance. We're all jumping in the pool tonight. Everyone raises their glasses and takes a sip from their drinks. Come on everyone, get on your feet. Come on, Miles says, trying to get the group to dance. But Lionel and Claire's eyes widen, and they jump up. Behind Miles, Duke is gasping for air and grabbing his throat. He drops his drink to the floor and starts grabbing onto Miles, like trying to ask for help. Whiskey screams, she jumps up from the couch. Duke falls backward onto the glass coffee table, shattering it as he is still gasping for air. Blanc runs over to Duke and he reaches into his mouth, but he's not choking. Suddenly, Duke stops moving or making any sounds. I'm afraid Mr. Cody is dead, Blanc says. Everyone just stands there frozen. Everyone's like, what? Like, oh my God. Birdie starts screaming. She's like, oh my God. Like, she's so insane right now. Blanc is like, there was no obstruction in his airways, but we won't know the cause of death without an autopsy. Whiskey is crying over Duke's body, and Blanc tells her she needs to leave the body alone, so she runs off crying. Blanc tells Miles to call the boat and to get the police to come and to get the paramedics to come here, but Miles doesn't say anything. He's just still sitting on the couch looking up Duke, frozen. Lionel's like, I'll do it, and he leaves to call the boat, and Blanc reminds him to call medical personnel and to call the police. This is when Miles snaps out of it. Wait, the police? Are you treating this like a crime scene? He says. Claire panics, imagining the headlines. Oh my gosh, I can already picture this. Governor jets off to Greece in a pandemic with a men's rights YouTuber who dies, she says, freaking out. But Peg's like, the police is protocol, like they have to come here. Claire throws up in an empty ice bucket and she's just freaking out. Birdie continues to cry, and Miles calmly asks Blanc if he thinks that, Duke's death was intentional. Yes. His death was very acute and violent, so yes, my guess is that something was put in his drink intentionally. Lionel comes back from the call room and explains that the boats can't come until low tide in the morning, 6 a.m. at the latest, because Miles' dock only works in low tide. Blanc says, okay, then you guys should all go to your room, lock your doors until 5:30 a.m., and then they can all come back out and walk to the dock together. He says that he will stay up all night and watch the body to make sure that nothing happens to it. As Blanc says this, Miles is just staring down at the carpet, still shocked over his best friend's death. But as he's staring at the carpet, he spots something, a glass with the name Miles on it. Now, earlier, when he was giving everyone their signature drinks, as I said, he gave everyone a personalized glass with their names on it. So if Duke had been drinking from his cup, it should say Duke on it. Oh my God, he says, pointing to the cup. Birdie looks over and she's like, that's your glass, Miles. Yeah, he picked up mine by mistake, which means Miles turns to the group and then he puts Blanc in front of him, using him as protection. I'll pay you $1 billion to tell me which one of them tried to kill me, he says. The group just stares back at Miles, shocked. Like, they're like, really, Miles? Like, you think we did this? And Birdie's like, Miles, baby, are you for real? Like, they cannot believe that he is accusing them of trying to kill him. Meanwhile, Duke's Google alerts continue to go off, and Blanc's like, let me go silence his phone so we can think properly. And Miles is like, no, we're all staying in this room until the boat arrives so that they can be in plain sight, because again, he thinks that one of them did try to kill him. That's when he realizes that Whiskey and Andi aren't in the room anymore. Now, Blanc can't find Duke's phone anywhere, so Peg goes over to help him look for it, and they start like pulling Duke's shirt up to see if maybe his phone is like somewhere in there. And that's when Lionel's like, oh my gosh, forget about his phone. Look, he says, pointing to Duke's holster. His gun is missing. Oh my God, oh fiddlesticks, when did his gun disappear? Blanc says, searching for it. We need to find Andi, he adds, but Miles is in full panic mode at this point. He tries again to hide behind Blanc and use him as like a protective guard, and he's genuinely scared that one of his friends is going to kill him. Suddenly, the hourly dawn goes off. Oh no, he says as he reaches for Blanc's watch, checking the time. It's 10 p.m. Oh no, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. Okay, no, this cannot be happening. Mr. Bron, what's the matter? Blanc says. It's the game, my murder mystery game. We were supposed to be having drinks at this point, and I thought it would be fun to say something dramatic just at 10 o'clock, and we were gonna have 20 minutes where... Oh my God, Blanc, you have to help me, help me. Blanc slaps him in the face. He's like, what happens at 10 o'clock? Suddenly, the power goes out on the entire island. It's complete darkness, except for one single light coming from the lighthouse that circles around. So light randomly enters through the windows. Birdie screams, everyone's freaking out. They try to turn on their phone flashlights and everyone's just panicking. That's when Whiskey comes running into the room holding a weapon, and she's like, it was Andi. She killed Duke and she tore our room apart. I saw her. No. Not today, Miles says, and he runs out of the room. He starts running down a hallway and he sees a shadow of someone else running. It's Andi, hiding behind a wall. Peg finally finds her phone. She turns it on to illuminate the room, but that's when she realizes that she's completely alone. Everyone has completely dispersed, even though, again, Blanc told them that they all needed to stay in this room until they figured out what was going on. But now everyone's gone. Miles creeps around the hallway and he's like, Andi? Andi, are you there? But he gets no response and he continues running away. Meanwhile, Blanc also looks around the house with a small flashlight. He goes into the kitchen. And that's when he spots a knife missing from the knife block. He's like, oh my God, like what is going on with this knight? So he continues creeping around the hallways. And that's when he finally spots Andi, who's running outside the house. He follows her to the front stairs outside the mansion and he quickly grabs her. Helen, did you take Duke's gun? He says. Why would I take Duke's gun? And why are the lights out? She says. Duke is dead. What? Andi says. In the distance, we can see someone's hand holding Duke's gun, aiming it at Andi and at Blanc behind a glass window. Trust me, it's all in plain sight. We only need one last piece of information, but only you can. But suddenly, Blanc's sentence is cut off by the gun firing through the glass. It hits Andi, Andi falls to the floor, and the person holding the gun drops it and runs away. Inside the house, the friend group calls out to each other, asking where they are, what happened, and did you guys hear that? The lights turn back on. And Blanc turns to everyone and sees that they're all coming out from different, areas of the mansion. And they're all standing at the top of the staircase, staring down at Andi, who is lying on the ground, dead. Oh my God, they continue to say. Blanc tells him to just go back inside. And they're like, no, shouldn't we get her body or do something? And he's like, there's nothing more we can do for her. It's time to finish this, he says. They all walk back inside, leaving Andi's body just lying there on the steps. But when Blanc approached Andi, he said, Helen, did you steal Duke's gun? Why did he say Helen? Anyways, they all go back into the living room / dining room. Blanc tells Peg to radio the boats to tell them to come now, and the group goes back inside the mansion. He just doesn't understand how this night turned so dark. I mean, it was supposed to be a fun murder mystery game night, but now it's turned real and 2 people are dead. She killed Duke though. Why would she? Whiskey asks, confused. Yeah, it makes no sense, Miles adds. Blanc says that it all makes perfect sense. And the group's like, okay, then can you explain it to us, detective? But he's like, no, only one person can tell them who killed Cassandra Brand. Now, before we get into the finale, let's go back to the beginning, to before Andi's death, to before Duke's death, to when Detective Blanc was sitting inside his bathtub playing Among Us with his friends. Blanc, there's someone here for you with a box, his partner shouts out. Blanc gets out of the bathtub and approaches the front door. Standing there holding the box is not a delivery man, it's Andi. Is this Benoit Blanc's residence? She says, but she has a completely different accent than from the Andi that we know. She has a southern accent and her hair is also different. It's long and curly, not short and blonde. The 2 go out to his terrace and wow, this terrace is stunning. I literally dream of having a patio like that. It's beautiful. They're in the heart of New York. It's just gorgeous. They sit at his table and Blanc opens a package. Inside is the broken box that we saw Andi destroy earlier in the movie. Andi sits across from him and she says, my name is Helen Brand and I came all the way from Alabama. Blanc is like, okay, hello, who are you? What do you do? What can I do for you? What do you do in Alabama? And she's like, I teach the 3rd grade. 2 days ago, I received a call. My twin sister committed suicide in her car, in her garage with the engine running. We see Helen identifying her sister at the morgue. They pull back the sheet. And her sister is Andi. They're identical twins. Helen explains to Blanc that she was cleaning out Andi's house yesterday and that it was a mess. Her bookshelf was on the floor, her books were everywhere, and while she was looking at all of this chaos, wondering how she was going to pick this up, suddenly there was a knock at the door. And it was the delivery man that had the package from Miles Bron with the invite to his island. Wow, I'm so sorry for your loss, but Miss Bron, what can I do for you? Blanc asks. Andi didn't commit suicide. She didn't leave a note. So I went on her computer and I looked in her email sent inbox to see if she wrote anything before her death. And look, she sent this at 4 p.m. the day she was murdered 4 days ago. Helen hands her phone to Blanc and he reads the email out loud. I finally found it. It's right here and I'm going to use it to burn his whole empire down. I'm giving you one last chance to make things right. You know where to find me. And attached to this email is a photo of Andi holding a red envelope that has Love Andi written on it. The email was sent to everyone currently on the trip, to Duke, to Claire, to Birdie, to Lionel, to everyone besides Miles. Helen explains that nobody wrote back to the email, and then the next day her sister was found dead in the garage with sleeping pills in her system. I searched every inch of that house, and guess what I didn't find there? The red envelope. Compelling, Blanc says. Google says that you're the world's greatest detective. I want to hire you to go to that island and figure out what happened, she says. Blanc's like, wait, I didn't see your sister's death in the news. Did you release a statement? Oh my gosh, no, was I supposed to? Helen says. He's like, wait, no, this is actually good. If I can pull some strings, I can keep it from leaking to the press for another week. Miss Brand, any feelings of reverence or respect you had for me when you crossed my threshold, butchers those feelings now. I'm proposing that you come with me to that island as your sister, Cassandra Brand. Now, his reason for this is that if he goes alone and starts asking questions about her sister and snooping around, none of them will talk to him about it. But if she's there, it's different. He tells her that she'll cut her hair and wear Andi's clothes, use her accent, everything, and that no one will ever suspect that she's Helen playing her dead sister. Especially if they don't know her sister is dead. Right, Helen says. They don't know Andi is dead. She sits there really thinking about this. Mr. Blanc, is this safe? No. One person will know the truth about you from the moment you arrive on that island. The killer will know who you are and what you're doing. And they certainly wouldn't hesitate to kill again if it covers our tracks. I'm a detective, Helen. I'm not a bodyguard. I'm sorry, I can't help you, Blanc says. No, one of those shitheads killed my sister. Do you really think we can get that son of a bitch? Helen says. Blanc smiles back at her. And now, this plan is in action. And the next scene, Blanc is sitting on a fancy restaurant's patio in Greece. He arrived a day early to meet with Helen to go over their plan. Helen shows up to this restaurant dressed as Andi, and she looks amazing. Well, my goodness, Blanc says to her, because she looks just like Cassandra Brand. Obviously, they are twin sisters, so of course they look alike, but wow, Helen truly transformed into Andi. I shouldn't be here. This is nuts, but I'm here, so let's do this, Helen says as she sits down. She pulls out some of Andi's journals that she's been studying, and Blanc goes over the plan for tomorrow, saying that he'll get to the dock early and that when they get on the boat, Helen should be cold. She should be distant from the group. She should be isolated. She shouldn't really talk to people. Helen starts practicing Andi's accent, and honestly, she's got it. Again, Helen has a southern accent, and Andi had a more posh, wealthy accent, if that makes sense. So, of course, now Helen has to learn how to speak in a whole new way, and it's so much work, and she's feeling nervous about this, but she wants to figure out what actually happened to her sister, and she'll do anything to get the truth. A server stops by asking if she would like anything to drink, but Helen says she doesn't drink, so she'll just have coffee. Okay, so you said that you were going to research these people for motives. Did you find anything? She asked Blanc. He's like, yes, I found a motive for each and every one of them, but still, he doesn't understand why anyone would kill Andi to protect Miles. That just seems so extreme. Well, what about Miles? What if he just did it? Helen asks. Well, we can't rule it out, but Miles Bron is not an idiot. To risk committing murder after a very public court case with the possibility of that email coming to light would be an exceedingly stupid thing to do. Andi then walks Blanc through the journals, saying that 10 years ago, before they all hit it big, they all used to hang out together at this bar called the Glass Onion. It looks just like any other bar, but it has that neon sign that Miles now has in his mansion. Helen explains that Miles wasn't actually the leader of the group. Andi was. They were all friends with Andi first. Birdie was a washed-up model. Duke was a nerd doing video game tournaments. Claire just lost her race for city council. Lionel was a substitute teacher. But Andi saw their potential. Then she found Miles, who at the time had this long hair. He looked insane, and Andi introduced him to the rest of the group. At first, nobody really liked him because he said stuff like he wanted to be responsible for something that gets talked about in the same breath as the Mona Lisa, and just again, everything he said was so cheesy, so the group was just kind of like, what is this guy's deal, Andi? He's so weird, we don't like him, he seems very fake. But Andi told the rest of the group, listen, let's humor him, let's see where it goes, let's see what happens. And things started to happen for the group. Miles got Birdie a show for her designs. He got Lionel published. Duke set up at Twitch, and Claire elected locally. They all loved Miles now. He changed their lives. One night at the Glass Onion bar, Miles was playing pool while Andi was sitting down at the bar writing on a napkin. What is that you're working on? He asked. Andi just smiled back at him. She was sitting there writing her idea for Alphen on that napkin, the same napkin that Miles now has hanging in his office, claiming that he wrote himself. So, based off the napkin idea, Andi and Miles created Alpha. It blows up and they bring everyone along for the ride. Then 2 years ago, Miles meets some sketchy Norwegian scientist in Peru who sells him on the new hydrogen fuel. He's willing to give all of Alpha's resources to launch it. We then see a flashback of Andi looking at the contracts and she refuses to sign them. She says that this could blow up the world. Literally. She tells Miles that she won't sign the papers and that she'll take half the company just to stop him from doing this. Now, Andi did take half the company, but Miles got his lawyers to figure out how to cut her out completely. They found some type of weird loophole in her contract, and that's what that lawsuit was about. Her whole case was based on intellectual ownership of the company's founding idea, Helen says. So, her idea on the napkin? Blanc asks. Yeah, which she didn't keep, Helen says. We see a flashback to the trial, and it was horrible. Andi had to sit there every single day and listen to her friends lie about Alpha. Claire got on the stand and said, yeah, Miles was very excited. He had an idea, so he grabbed a napkin and, he just scribbled something on it to show us. Andi jumped from her seat and said, Your Honor, that's a lie. But Claire didn't even bother to look at her in the eyes. She just kept her eyes down and took sips from her glass of water. Next, Duke took the stand. And do you recall, Mr. Cody, who wrote this napkin? Yes, it was Miles. He lies. Birdie also lies. Yep, it was Miles. He wrote the napkin. Lionel then takes the stand and says, Miles. Now, during this trial, Miles gave Andi a little shrug in court, just kind of being like, like I got everyone to lie for me. And Andi was just pissed. Literally, all of her friends betrayed her, and they lied on the stand. This all happened in March, so just a few months before this trip to Greece. And after the verdict, Miles suddenly found the napkin written in his handwriting and did a bunch of interviews about it, being like, look, here's the proof that I created Alpha. Like, here's the napkin. He just wanted to let the world know that he was the sole creator of Alpha, and that, of course, Andi was a liar. Andi read all of his interviews, and this just made her so angry. She even threw her phone while looking at articles about Miles. She flipped her coffee table. She pulled down her bookcase in anger. I mean, she destroyed her room because of how frustrated she felt in that moment. But that's when she spotted something sticking out of a book. Andi bent over, she pulled it out, and it was a napkin. The real napkin. Andi smiles because this is it. This is the proof she needed to prove that she was the one who invented Alpha, not Miles. That's when Andi then typed out that email that Helen showed Blanc, where the subject line said, found it. Attached is the picture of Andi holding the red envelope, and that's it. That's all Helen knows about what happened to her sister Andi. Blanc listens to this and he's like, okay, we need to figure out why the disruptors lied for Miles. What's the motive? Whose motive was strong enough to commit murder? And we need to figure out where everyone was the night of Andi's death. I'm scared, Helen says. I understand. This is your last chance to back out, Blanc tells her, but as we know, she doesn't. In the next scene, we see the group on the yacht, but this time we get to see Helen's point of view, pretending to be Andi. As we know, she stands at the back of the boat alone, and she's gripping the railing because she doesn't like boats. From the deck below, we now see that Duke actually whistled to her saying, ballsy move, and Birdie joined in on this and yelled at her, you shouldn't be here. But Helen/Andi just didn't reply anything to them because, again, Blanc told her to keep to herself, to not really talk to anyone, and just to kind of be quiet by herself. We then see Blanc and Helen after just arriving on the island. Remember, everyone started walking towards the Glass Onion for a tour, and Blanc told Andi, oh my gosh, this rich stuff is just a little bit too much for me. Well, that conversation happened on purpose. Blanc and Andi stayed behind. He bent down to tie his shoe so it wouldn't look obvious that they were having a private conversation. Helen told him that she was feeling nervous about Duke and Birdie, that she thinks they're onto her, but Blanc's like, no, relax, they're not onto you. There's no way that they know that you're not Andi. He adds that Miles is going to pull him aside to probably ask him why he's here, because again, Blanc wasn't actually invited to this trip. So he's like, when Miles pulls me aside to ask me what I'm doing here, that's your chance. You need to use that moment to go snoop and dig for information. So Helen goes to her room, she puts her bag down on the bed, and she puts herself together. I mean, this is an intense situation. Helen is here pretending to be her dead sister Andi, who was just murdered. She's on this island with all these crazy people who betrayed her sister, and one of them killed her. This is a very intense and dangerous situation. So Helen takes a moment to take it all in. Snooping. Okay, here we go, she says to herself. She starts walking around the property looking for rooms to snoop in, but suddenly she comes across Whiskey. Hey, Whiskey calls out to her. Hi, Andi, right? Yes, Helen responds. I'm Whiskey, we didn't really meet. Are you looking for the pool? Yeah, I am. Okay, do you want to walk together? Sure, Helen says. They start walking towards a pool and Whiskey gives Helen a drink in a glass bottle. I think it was one of those kombuchas from like Jared Leto's brand that everyone else was drinking earlier. Andi compliments Whiskey's necklace and Whiskey's like, thank you. Yeah, Miles got it for me for my birthday. I'm a Taurus sign. He filled his entire penthouse apartment with roses. It was very cute. He's a really good guy. He's complicated, but listen, I think it's a really shitty thing what they all did to you and how they all treated you. I read your court transcripts and you got shanked, Whiskey says. Oh, thank you, Whiskey, Helen responds, genuinely meaning it. As they continue talking, Whiskey explains that this is her second trip with this group, that they did one last year, and that these are the worst trips ever. This friend group is just a nightmare when they're together. Duke just treats her like arm candy, and everyone else just ignores her, which is really true because this entire time that they've been here, no one has taken a moment to speak with Whiskey or even get to know her. Everyone is just in their own little world, so self-absorbed, and since they can't gain anything from Whiskey, no one bothers speaking to her because they don't value her. Helen asks her why she puts up with this in the first place, but Whiskey says that she's trying to build her brand and Duke keeps putting her on his channel, so she's gaining exposure from that. However, it also seems as if Whiskey isn't fully in love with Duke anymore because he's leaning too much into this like mandom and like, podcast bro style, and if she ever wants to get into politics, then she doesn't want to be aligned with like Duke's brand. They eventually make it to the pool and Helen tells her that she's going to walk around for a bit more and that she'll meet Whiskey later. Okay, well, it was nice talking to you, Helen says. You too, Whiskey responds before heading off to the pool. This conversation seemed so genuine. Honestly, it was one of the few conversations on this island that was actually genuine, that actually had some substance and some value to it. Everyone else's conversations have been so superficial. Anyways, Helen sips on her drink as she continues to snoop. Meanwhile, we see Claire and Lionel's point of view at the edge of the pool that we didn't see before. This happened when Blanc was in the pool talking to Duke about his gun. And remember, I told you guys that Lionel and Claire were at the edge of the pool having a very private conversation and that it looked a little bit suspicious. I did it. 2 weeks ago, I did it, Claire tells him. You signed off on the power plant? Lionel asks. Yep, when this thing breaks, poof, she says. I did too. I signed off on putting Clear on a manned mission. Staff doesn't know it yet, Lionel responds. This is an infinity pool, like I said, so Helen is eavesdropping on this conversation from below the infinity pool. Let's just pray that Andi was wrong about this Clear stuff, Claire says. No, she was right. You put its gas form into household piping, there's massive leakage into the air. The hydrogen particles are too small, Lionel says. Hydrogen gas? Claire's eyes widen with fear. Lionel, I sold my soul for this. You're telling me that it could literally turn people's homes into Hindenburg, she says. Now, across from the pool, Helen walks over and she sits next to Birdie and Peg. She throws a recording device into Birdie's bag, and then as we know, Birdie removes her hat and she spots Andi/Helen sitting next to her and they have that awkward conversation. So after snooping around for a bit, Blanc and Helen meet up to swap information, and he's honestly impressed by everything that Helen has found out so far. Helen can't imagine any of them killing Andi. Yes, they're horrible people, but are they really killers? And Blanc starts to run a scenario by her that we get to see play out on screen. So he's like, okay, what if the night of Andi's death, Duke was knocking on Andi's door, coming to apologize for taking Miles' side, and she lets him in? Or maybe it was Lionel who came over and he put crushed up sleeping pills in Andi's coffee when she wasn't looking. Then we see Claire sitting down there and watching as Andi drops her coffee, dead. Then we see Birdie putting Andi in the car to stage the suicide. Again, this is just a scenario that Blanc created about how Andi could have been killed, and he honestly thinks that they're all more than capable of doing this. It didn't have to be a violent death. Again, they could have just put sleeping pills in her coffee, watched her passed out, and then staged the crime scene. Helen listens to this, and this is such a hard thing for her to listen to. Of course, she's having to theorize about how her sister was murdered by one of these people. So she chugs the rest of the drink that Whiskey gave her, and Blanc's like, whoa, I thought you said you didn't drink. Oh, this isn't a drink. This is some funky health stuff, she says. But Blanc takes her drink and tells her that this is hard kombucha, that this is Jared Leto's hard kombucha, meaning there's alcohol in it. Helen is clearly a little intoxicated, but she's like, I feel fine. And she wants to push to find out who had the opportunity to kill Andi, but Blanc tells her to not push too hard because again, there's danger here. But we see what happens next when Helen joins the whole group by the pool when Miles was explaining what a disruptor was. As he finishes his speech, Helen is of course annoyed. She chugs her hard kombucha. She starts slow clapping, and that's when she tells the group that they're only friends with Miles because they're using him. After her speech, she storms off, and remember, Claire went after her. Helen threw her kombucha bottle and some plants and just continued walking away. Wait, Claire tells her, catching up to her. Helen stops and turns back. Wait? No, you wait. That day in court, you couldn't even look me in the eye, she says. Claire gives her like a little up and down look, and then she just says, what are you doing? Helen doesn't respond, and then Duke walks over to them. You want to talk about the email? Claire says. Oh, so now you want to talk about the email. You didn't even write back, Helen tells her. I'm a politician. I never email anything that I wouldn't want to see on the front page of the Times. That's why I called. We all did right after we got it over and over again, but your phone was off, and then the whole next week it was off too. Helen thinks fast to think of a cover-up because she knows why Andi wasn't answering the phone, because she's been dead for a week. Yeah, well, I got a new number, she says. Duke finally chimes in saying, and when we couldn't reach you, I went to your house. We then see a flashback of the outside of Andi's farmhouse, cottage-style home. It's dusk and we see Duke walking up to the house. Claire and Lionel also show up to the house at the same time. They all look in through Andi's windows and they call out her name. Duke is pounding on the door, almost breaking it. And Claire says that they waited for over an hour before they just left. Then Birdie went to Andi's house later that night to check, but it was the same thing. So where the hell were you, Andi? She asks. Helen turns to them and she's like, wait, what time did you get to the house? I don't know, it was dark, Claire says. And Duke, you were already there? Helen asks. He almost got in an accident on his motorcycle. He was driving so fast. Andi, I almost got pancaked, he adds. Now, Helen's intoxication is showing, so she's like, wait a second, can you guys repeat that one more time for me? And Claire's like, what is wrong with you? And she steps closer to Helen. She's being like more intimidating now, like not at all apologetic when she says that they need to talk about this further. But Helen stands her ground. If I had answered the door that night, would you have said, I'm sorry, I backed you with Miles? Or were you just showing up so you could stop me from using that envelope? Claire and Duke don't say anything back. I mean, we already know why they were there. It wasn't to apologize to Andi or to make amends. They were there to either kill Andi or to convince her to destroy the napkin. Helen stumbles off as Lionel walks over. Something's off. I don't like it. What is she playing at? Claire says. So now we know for a fact that Claire, Lionel, Duke, and Birdie were all at Andi's house the night she died. Helen and Blanc meet up at the indoor gym for another debrief. She notes that Duke was alone at Andi's house before Claire and Lionel showed up, and Birdie was also alone at Andi's house after everyone left. So maybe Birdie or Duke are the killers. But Blanc's like, no, I mean, Claire and Lionel could have easily just circled back to the house and killed her later that night, so they all had the opportunity. Suddenly, the fax machine in the gym goes off, and I forgot that Miles doesn't have a phone and that he only uses the fax machine to communicate with people, which is just wild. So Blanc goes over to the fax machine and he realizes that Miles hasn't been collecting his faxes from it, so there are still a few old faxes in the pile, which includes a fax that Lionel forwarded to him regarding Andi's threatening email. Andi, again, never sent that threat to Miles. He was supposed to be unaware about this email, but Lionel told him. Before Blanc and Helen can even unpack what this means, Duke suddenly enters the gym, so they quickly hide. Duke is on the phone with someone and he's saying, right now, go to him. Do what you have to do. Push that son of a bitch. Just get an answer out of him. Look, babe, we really need this, so do this for me one last time, okay? Okay, all right, but... Seems like he got hung up on before he could finish his sentence. So who was he talking to on the phone? Well, he was talking to Whiskey. He was telling his girlfriend Whiskey to go sleep with Miles one more time. When Duke was watching the two sleep together through the glass window, he wasn't angry because he caught them sleeping together and having an affair. He planned this. He asked Whiskey to go sleep with Miles and to push him to let Duke on Alpha News. Are you going to do it for me? Whiskey asks Miles. He says, reaching for her breasts. Not that, she says, and grabs his hands. Oh, come on, Miles says. Look, this is all he wants. His YouTube channel is dying. He just needs the exposure. Just put him out on the news, baby. Just a little late night spot. And you know he's earned it with what he did. Whiskey says, listen, I am building the future of news. I can't have rhino horn boner pill karma in the mix. Whiskey and giggles when he says this, and Duke, overhearing this conversation, looks really hurt because they're making fun of him. Look, he's my loyal friend, but I can't put him on Alpha News, okay? Miles adds. Now, behind Duke is Blanc, who was eavesdropping on this conversation, but Helen was there too, standing behind another tree. She's the one who made the twig snap earlier, which caused Duke to turn around. It was so fun watching these flashbacks and seeing like how everything played out and what actually happened and how Blanc was eavesdropping on all of these conversations. And so was Helen. And that Duke was the one who pushed his girlfriend into sleeping with his best friend. Like, it's kind of horrible. Like, I get that, like, he wants to be on Alpha News and he wants to, like, elevate his brand. But to, like, ask your girlfriend to sleep with this, like, nasty little man just for your benefit is just disgusting. So next, it's time for Helen to spy on Birdie and Peg. She hides by their room and the two are in the middle of, like, a huge argument. Peg storms out and Birdie goes after her. Helen uses this chance to go into Birdie's room, look into her purse, and grab the recording device she put in earlier. She goes back to her room and she starts playing the device for Blanc, replaying the argument that Helen just caught the end of. In this argument, Birdie was telling Peg that she was going to sign the statement. "No, that will destroy us. There's no coming back from this," Peg says. "Look, the story's going to break. There's no stopping it," Birdie adds. "No, but we'll do what we always do. Deny, half apologize, and then we'll go silent for a bit. I'll handle this," Peg begs, but Birdie then just hands Peg her phone, and Peg is like, "Huh? Excuse me? Like, where did you get this from?" Because again, she's not supposed to have a phone. "It's my secret phone," Birdie responds, and on her screen is an email from the Sweetie Pants contractor from 2 years ago. Peg reads it out loud. "Miss J, I'm writing to inform you that the proposed Bangladesh factory is notoriously one of the world's biggest sweatshops. Please advise." And Birdie replied saying, "Sounds perfect, thank you," with her memoji dabbing. Peg reads this and she seems so dazed. She's like, "Birdie, please tell me you didn't think that sweatshops are where they make sweatpants?" Birdie just stares back at her. Clearly, she did think that. She explains that if she takes full responsibility, Miles is going to pay her off for her shares. That's $30 million. "I will do whatever I have to do to save myself, and he is my only lifeline," Birdie adds. So she's got motive to protect Miles too. Blanc says that whoever killed Andi took the envelope to protect Miles and that they wouldn't destroy it right away because they would want to have it as proof to show Miles, like, "Look what I did for you. Look how loyal I am. Like, I killed Andi for you." Oh my gosh, so they brought it here. It's here. How are we supposed to find it? Helen asks. Blanc's like, "Well, the killer wouldn't bring it to dinner, so they'll have to hide it in their room." "Okay, so at dinner, don't drink anything because your mind has to be clear and sharp. Get into an argument at dinner about anything. Make everyone feel uncomfortable so that no one will chase after you. Then go snoop in everyone's rooms and find that red envelope," Blanc tells her. And as we know, at that dinner, she yelled at all of them that she wanted the truth. And then Duke called her a loser and she stormed out. And of course, no one went after her. On her way out though, Helen told Whiskey that Duke was a son of a bitch and that she should leave his ass. So moments after that, Helen began searching all of the rooms, completely ransacking them. I'm talking flipped furniture, suitcases completely dumped out. She is looking everywhere and not cleaning up after herself. I mean, at this point, she is desperate for answers. She runs across the property to search the next bedroom, and as she finishes the second room, her phone starts to vibrate, but she just ignores it and continues her search. Meanwhile, while Andi is going through all the rooms, this is when everyone is back in the living room drinking and just getting drunk and just like awkwardly there, like bored, saying that they're gonna leave the next morning. Andi/Helen enters the next bedroom where her phone vibrates again, so she takes it out, and that's when she sees that she has 27 new text messages and 21 missed calls. She opens the notifications and all the texts are like, "Oh my god, Helen, I'm so sorry, I just heard the news, how are you doing?" and things like that. So Helen types her sister's name into Google, and sure enough, the news has dropped of Andi's apparent suicide. Helen panics a little. She's like, "Oh my god, we're running out of time. Like, if I just got these messages, that means that anybody else could quickly go on their phone and realize that Andi is actually dead, and they'll know that I'm not the real Andi." So Helen is panicking and she returns to searching Duke and Whiskey's room, but she doesn't find anything. But suddenly she hears Whiskey scream. Helen steps into the bedroom and she's like, "Hello, Andi?" Whiskey asks, surprised to see her in their room. "I can explain this." Wait a minute, Whiskey, is the party over?" Andi asks. No, I left, she says, sitting on the bed in distress. I left because I couldn't. Oh my God, he didn't deserve this. How am I going to tell his mom? Whiskey says, referring to Duke's death. Hey, yes, he did deserve this, okay? He's a bastard. I don't feel sorry for him. He deserved what he got, and you are better off without him, Helen says, trying to comfort Whiskey, completely unaware of the fact that Duke just died, and that's why Whiskey is upset, not because she just broke up with him. Whiskey stares back at Andi confused. She's like, wait, what? And that's when she puts 2 and 2 together and thinks that Helen/Andi is the one who poisoned Duke. She quickly dives to the ground and grabs like a crossbow-looking weapon and she points it at Helen. Suddenly, the power goes out. Whiskey screams and yells, please don't kill me, please don't kill me. And Helen's like, I'm not trying to kill you, you psycho. And she runs out of the room. Whiskey shoots after her, but misses her, and instead, she hits a statue of a swordfish. Helen continues running away. She runs up the stairs to the front door of the mansion, which is when she runs into Detective Blanc outside on the front steps. Blanc is like, Helen, did you take Duke's gun? And she's like, no. And she's like, I searched every room and the red envelope isn't there. Oh, I've been a fool. There's one more room to search, Detective Blanc says. Oh my gosh, yes, they already gave it to Miles. It's in the glass onion, Helen says. Look, if I can distract everyone, you can get up there and find it, he adds. But that doesn't tell us who gave it to him. Blanc, I don't understand, Helen says. Please, trust me, it's all in plain sight. We only need one last piece of information, but only you can. And that's when Blanc is cut off by the gunshot that hits Helen. Helen falls to the ground and Blanc just stares back at her in shock. Looks like he's about to cry. I mean, he cannot believe that Helen's dead. I mean, he's the one that told her to come here pretending to be Andi. This was his idea. Now he feels guilty at the fact that she's gone. That's when Helen suddenly jumps up, taking a breath. She was shot in the chest, but there's no blood. She goes into the blazer pocket and she pulls out Andi's journal. The bullet was lodged in the journal. What are you doing, Blanc? Get him! Don't let him get away, she yells in reference to the shooter. But Blanc is like, wait a second. He's like, first of all, I cannot believe that you're not dead. But wait a second. And he takes a bottle of hot sauce out of his pocket. Remember, Miles told him to take some bottles if he wants. The killer thinks that you're dead. This is our cover. I can buy you maybe 5 minutes alone in the glass onion. But you have to find that envelope, Blanc says. Okay, I will, Helen says as she grabs a hot sauce bottle and pours it all over her white outfit to mimic blood. Blanc then grabs the bottle and puts some of it into his eyes to make them water, and Helen plays dead. As we know, the group comes over and they react to seeing Andi's dead body. Helen tries to stay as still as possible, but there's literally a drop of hot sauce on her chin that is dripping down towards her nose. She twitches and she tries to not make a sound, but the hot sauce obviously is burning her face. The hot sauce even gets into her nostril, but still, she stays as still as she can. Blanc and the group leave. They go back into the dining room. Helen blows her nose and she runs as fast as she can up to the glass onion. This scene was insane, you guys. I mean, first of all, what luck that journal caught the bullet and saved Helen's life. And what are the odds that Jeremy Renner's hot sauce was conveniently there being a part of the plan? It was just so genius. And again, to see this all unfold again and to know that Helen wasn't actually shot, that of course she was playing Andi the whole time, and that Blanc had this whole plan, it's crazy. So now we finally get back to real time, to when Blanc and the rest of the group were standing in the dining room discussing Andi's death. I know, that was a lot. It's kind of crazy, and I hope you guys were able to keep up with me, but that's basically everything that was going on behind the scenes. And now, again, we are in current time when Blanc is explaining this to everyone. So I can take it to a point, but what lies at the center, only one person can tell us who killed Cassandra Brand. Who? Claire yells. Well, I keep returning in my mind to the glass onion, he goes on, trying to buy Helen some time. He walks around the group saying each layer led to another layer and another layer and another layer, but he says that that's the problem. I expected complexity. I expected intelligence. I expected a puzzle, a game. But that's not what any of this is, he says. Meanwhile, Helen is up at the glass onion looking around the office, and she's behind Miles's desk under the neon glass onion bar sign. Then she sees the framed photo of the group and then the napkin. It hides not behind complexity, but behind my numbing obvious clarity. Truth is, it wasn't hiding at all, and I was staring right at it. Blanc continues in his grand speech. I mean, we know from Knives Out, he loves to do these little monologues. So he's downstairs doing this big monologue while Helen looks more closely at the group photo of her sister and of her friends. It's placed on a stained glass window. And behind the frame, Helen spots a little bit of red peeping out. She removes the frame from the wall, and the red envelope falls onto the table beneath it. There it is. This is the proof that Helen needed. The killer nearly struck my Achilles heel, but thank high heaven, at the last moment I realized what had teased my brain through this entire case. Inebriate. That's not a word, Blanc tells the group. We then see a flashback of when they all first arrived to the island. Miles had said to them that we can all just take a second and fully inebriate this moment. Blanc says like that moment stuck with him. He's like, that's not a real word. It kind of sounds like a word, but it's just entirely made up. Now reclamation, well, that is a word, but it's the wrong word, Blanc says. We then see another flashback to when Miles showed them his mansion for the first time and said, this place is the full reclamation of everything I've achieved up to now. Blanc goes on to say that the entire day has been full of Miles using words in error. Again, Miles tries to sound intelligent and deep when he's speaking, but nothing he actually says has any substance or meaning. His dock doesn't float, his wonder fuel is a disaster, his grasp of disruption theory is remedial at best. He didn't design the puzzle boxes, he didn't write the mystery, and voila, it all adds up. The key to the entire case, and it was staring me right in the face, Blanc says. Like everyone, I assumed that Miles Bron was a complicated genius, but why? Look into the clear center of this glass onion. He says, looking at this like painting of Miles with like a six-pack, which obviously is not how Miles looks like in real life. Blanc then turns to the group and says, Miles Bron is an idiot. The whole group turns and looks at Miles, and Miles is like, oh my god, please, just tell us who tried to kill me. Miles says, annoyed at Blanc's speech. But I mean, everything that Blanc has said is very true. Miles is an idiot. He acts like a genius, but the glass dock he created doesn't float. His clear fuel is a joke. He didn't make the puzzle boxes. He didn't even plan his own murder mystery game. He hired someone to write the whole thing. So he does nothing. He then likes to say that he created Alpha, that he's this genius, but as we know, Andi was the one who created everything. Nobody tried to kill you, you buffoon, Blanc tells him. But no, I mean, Duke took my glass. He drank the drink that was supposed to be drunk by me. That's what you told us he did, Blanc explains. Now, because Miles told them that was basically implanted in their mind. But think, Blanc says, asking them to recall what they actually saw. The group thinks back to Duke's death, and we see a flashback to Miles distracting Duke, telling him to watch Birdie spin in her beautiful dress, and then Miles puts the drink in Duke's hand before picking up Duke's drink off the coffee table. So Miles purposely gave his drink to Duke. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't like Duke accidentally picked it up. No. Miles handed it directly to Duke. Claire gasps and Miles looks a little annoyed at this reveal. Blanc, are you telling us that Miles killed Duke? Lionel asks. Yes, Blanc responds. But why? Because the night Andi sent all the emails, when Duke got to Andi's house early on his motorcycle, he saw Miles leaving. We then see another flashback. I know there's a lot of flashbacks of Duke speeding on his motorcycle and Miles's expensive sports car zooming in the other direction. The two of them almost like crash into each other, and Claire remembers that Duke told them all that he almost got into an accident that night. But that doesn't make sense though, because Miles had been living in Greece for the past 6 months, so there's no way he was at Andi's house 2 weeks ago, Lionel says. Nope. Whiskey, Blanc says. Whiskey acts a little bit nonchalant. She's like, what? And Blanc is like, Miles saw you on your birthday in New York. He gave you that necklace for your birthday, and you're a Taurus. Wait, yes, you're right. That was 2 weeks ago on May 9th, Whiskey says, which means that Miles wasn't only in Greece for the past 6 months. He was in New York 2 weeks ago, which means he could have easily gone to Andi's house and killed her. The group all stare at Miles as Helen walks down the stairs in her white outfit with the red hot sauce all over her, holding the red envelope. Everyone screams at the sight of her. They all thought that Andi had just been shot at the front steps 50 seconds ago. They all thought she was dead. Oh my god, what is reality? Birdie yells out. Miles just stares back at Andi/Helen completely shocked. Blanc walks everyone through what really happened, and we see yet another flashback. I know, there's a lot of flashbacks in this movie, but stay with me, it all makes sense. He explains that Lionel's faxed Andi's email to Miles, who got it in his New York penthouse when he was in town for Whiskey's birthday. And that envelope was the one thing that could destroy his empire of lies. So Miles drives his blue baby Porsche to Andi's house, would see it parked outside her home, and Andi lets him inside. I mean, why wouldn't she? Andi and Miles sit drinking coffee at her kitchen table. Andi takes a sip, and she starts to get woozy. She drops her coffee cup, which was clearly poisoned by Miles. But Duke alone knew you were there that night, but he didn't know Andi was dead. No, he didn't know that until this evening, right here when he got a Google alert on his phone, which has now fallen strangely silent, Blanc says, looking at Miles. He then takes Duke's phone out of Miles's pocket, which for some reason Miles still had on him, and Whiskey's like, oh my gosh. Blanc explains that Duke showed Miles the news on his phone about Andi's death because Miles doesn't own a phone. Did he really think he could stop all of them from finding out about Andi's death? I mean, they all have phones, Helen asks. No, he didn't need to hide the death. He just needed to hide that Duke showed him the death moments before he was killed. We then see a flashback to when Duke was showing Miles his phone about his YouTube views. It wasn't actually about his YouTube views. It was about a news article saying that Andi had been found dead from an apparent suicide. This changes things, right? Duke says. Yeah, you bet it does, Miles says. Then we can see Miles pouring pineapple juice into the drink he was making, and as we know, Duke don't dance with pineapple. So Miles killed his best friend using his allergy. The rest of the group looks at Helen, realizing who she is because they start reading the articles being like, wait, Andi's dead? Like the real Andi's dead? And they're like, oh my God, this article says that Andi was survived by her sister Helen. Oh my gosh, this is when everyone realizes that Andi had a twin sister this entire time. Now we come to Helen's attempted murder, which I have to give you credit for, did have a sound foundation of thought, Blanc says. The group looks at Miles, already believing that he did try to kill Helen, but still curious about why. Blanc explains that he had a group of people on the island that wished Andi harm, and when Miles hugged Duke, he took his gun and he hid it in an icebox behind the bar. But he actually got the idea from Blanc because remember earlier Blanc said that it was having a loaded gun on the table and turning off the lights. So we see a flashback to when all of the lights turned off when Miles was like, oh, this was part of my murder mystery game. The lights are supposed to turn off and blah, blah, blah. So when the lights turned off, Miles grabbed the gun from the icebox. He started chasing Helen down the hallway, and he was the one who shot Helen through the glass. Wait, what? Wait, and after all that, you still kept that envelope? You didn't burn it or anything? Lionel asks. Miles just stares back at him, realizing that he is an idiot and that he should have burned the envelope when he got the chance. Helen holds up the napkin, saying that she's got him, that she's taking him down and clearing her sister's name. But Miles isn't even fazed by this. He tells her that there's no way she can prove that that's the original napkin. But Helen's like, yes, I can. The Glass Onion bar closed 9 years ago, and only Andi's napkin has the bar's logo on it, which proves that this is the real napkin. Okay, but, Miles says, as he takes out a lighter, setting the napkin on fire. The Mona Lisa cover pops up, Helen drops the burning napkin on the ground, and everyone's jaw drops. I really have no idea why Helen would shove this napkin in his face. This is the only proof she has to show that her sister did invent Alpha and that she wasn't the liar in this case and that Miles was the bad guy. And she just handed it to him. That did not make sense to me. This will not stand, Blanc angrily says. Did you see any proof of this smoking napkin, Blanc? No. Did anybody else? Miles asks, and everybody looks away because, Helen only held it up to Miles, so technically nobody saw the napkin, but still, they know what just happened, but they're gonna deny it because they are still lying for Miles and covering up because they need him. Miles says that these are just accusations and foggy recollections and circumspective evidence. He means circumstantial, he just doesn't know the word because again, he's an idiot. Miles goes on to say that if this was all just them playing the murder mystery game he had planned, then Blanc would win an iPad Pro this time, but no, this is the real world. And in the real world, he needs more evidence than just a little detective story. He needs evidence to prove that Miles did this, but there is no evidence, so case closed. He's right. The contents of that envelope and his possession of it were our only physical evidence, Blanc says. Do you want to take this to the cops, to the courts? Pick your poison. Anywhere you go, it's your version of the truth against mine. Let's see how that goes. It'll go probably about how it went for Andi. Now, I do just want to say that your sister was a complicated woman and she meant the world to me. I'm sorry for your loss, Miles tells Helen, which is such an insane thing to say. He literally killed her sister, yet he's standing there saying, I'm sorry for your loss, as if he wasn't the one who caused it. Helen tears up. She turns and looks at the group. Nobody's stepping up. Raise your hand and say, I saw him take Duke's gun. I saw him at Andi's house. I saw the napkin before he burned it. But no one moves their hands, and then Claire says, we didn't. You would lie for a lie, but you won't lie for the truth? You're still holding on to him, Helen says, so disappointed in these people. I mean, they're just horrible. Miles just smiles knowing that he's won. He's getting away with it. There's no way that this group would ever turn on him. Helen goes over to Blanc, who seems to be in a daze. Blanc, I need you to do something. Please help me, Helen says with tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, Helen. I gave you the truth. This is where my jurisdiction ends. There's nothing I can do, Blanc says, looking equally upset. Except maybe offer you some courage, he says, handing her a drink and a reminder of why your sister left in the first place. Blanc then walks out of the room. Helen stands there she doesn't know what to do next. She turns to look back at Miles. He raises a glass to her, and suddenly Helen's energy completely changes. She seems very intense and set on something as she walks to the center of the room. She chugs her entire drink back as the group silently watches her, and then she drops her glass on the floor and it shatters everywhere. She then picks up one of the small statues from its stand and also drops it to the ground. Miles doesn't seem upset by this. He kind of finds this entertaining. She picks up another glass statue from its stand and also drops it to the ground. Miles scoffs, still not acting annoyed. She pushes over another small statue, another statue, and all this glass is just shattering all over the ground, and Miles just continues drinking his wine, finding this entertaining. The other members of this group look around as if saying, what is going on right now? Is she actually destroying his house right now? Helen runs up to the remaining statues, throwing them all into the ground, just flicking them everywhere. And this was seriously one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Janelle, who plays Andi/Helen, did such a phenomenal job in this scene. Like I said, please give her all the awards for this, because the way she was running around, just knocking everything over, throwing everything to the ground, it was just so fun to watch. It was just amazing. You know what? Hell yeah, Whiskey yells, encouraging Helen to continue breaking the statues. Glass covers the floor and everyone else joins in saying, why the hell not? Lionel says. Yeah, go Helen, Claire says. Helen keeps smashing more glass statues. She picks up one statue and raises it up, but then there's one smash behind her. Helen turns and sees that a light was thrown by Birdie, who screams for a few seconds. God damn, that felt so good, Birdie says. Whiskey then knocks over one of the last statues off its stand and then gives Miles the middle finger. Ugh, really? He says. Hey, Miles, Claire says, and then she throws another statue on the ground. Lionel then knocks off another piece of glass, and everyone just starts knocking down these sculptures. Peg picks up another sculpture and smashes it to the ground as well. I mean, they all hate Miles, and they hate themselves for having to suck up to him and always be on his side, because they are, as Helen says, holding on to his golden titties. Miles still acts calm, cool, and collected, just drinking his wine. He even throws his own wine glass on the ground and he's like, Mazel tov. Yes, this is so fun. That's right, guys. Come on, let it all out, he says, encouraging them to continue destroying all of his stuff. All of the little sculptures are finally smashed and the group looks satisfied with their damage. But Helen isn't done yet. She goes up to this life-size glass statue of a knight and she knocks it over, smashing it into the ground. She grabs the knight's weapon that it was holding and runs across the room. Helen, easy, Claire says, as Helen runs up to the glass grand piano. She hits a piano stand, causing the back of it to slam shut and smash into pieces. Helen is smashing the piano keys as Miles finally says, okay, are we done now? Now he's getting annoyed. But Helen isn't done yet. She uses the weapon to destroy the bar cart and it completely shatters. Okay, what do you want? What do you want? Miles says. Helen turns to him, she grabs the lighter out of his hands, walks over to the bar, which is on the ground now, and brings the flame to the ground, which instantly ignites a line of alcohol and the entire bar goes up into flames. Lionel tries to find a fire extinguisher, but Helen runs towards the living room area. Birdie tries to stop her, but Helen is too fast. She grabs the couch cushions, adding them to the flames. Lionel tries to stop her from throwing in a blanket, but is unsuccessful and he falls over. Helen is literally throwing everything into this fire, igniting the flame even more. Okay, stop, Miles yells. Suddenly, the sprinklers go off in the entire room. Helen, walk away, Miles warns her. Yeah, with the reminder of why my sister walked away in the first place, she says. And then she pulls out a little glass crystal of clear, which Blanc gave to her when he said, remember why your sister walked away. She now holds it in front of Miles and his eyes completely widen. She then throws the crystal into the fire and Lionel says, oh crap. The fire grows and ignites the whole ceiling, but it's quickly vacuumed up by the vents. Hindenburg, Claire yells, as the top of Miles's mansion, the entire glass onion, explodes. Other parts of the home explode one by one, and Blanc just sits outside in the garden, and the alarm goes off saying that this is a smokeless garden, but he doesn't care anymore. He lights a cigar and he passes the lighter to Daryl, who I don't know where he's been the entire movie, but is now sitting next to him, drinking a beer with a joint in his mouth. Disruption, Blanc says. They both laugh. Inside the mansion, everything is on fire. Miles's Porsche crashes down into the living room, smashing on the floor. I mean, everything is destroyed, and Miles stands up looking so angry at what just happened. Helen went from smashing a few sculptures to destroying his piano to now destroying his entire home. Helen is lying on the ground recovering from this explosion. She makes eye contact with Miles, and then she looks over at the Mona Lisa that is behind the fireproof glass. Miles realizes what she's about to do. Helen jumps up from the ground and starts racing towards the override button while giving Miles the middle finger. He chases after her and he tries to beat her to the button, but Helen wins. She hits the gesture and the fireproof glass drops. The Mona Lisa starts to burn and Miles watches, screaming in panic. The group and Helen then go outside to sit on the front steps, just taking everything in. Miles comes out of the mansion and he's furious. "Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's so punk rock," he yells at Helen. He crouches down next to her and says that he hopes her little temper tantrum gave her closure because it accomplished nothing. But Helen turns and stares back at him. "Your fuel of the future just barbecued the world's most famous painting, you dumbass. Congratulations on the public launch of Clear. And the end of Miles Bron," she says. Miles tries to speak, but he doesn't have any words left. "You're ruined, but you did get your wish to forever be remembered in the same breath as the Mona Lisa," Helen says while she caresses his face. She then walks off and Claire kind of smiles knowing Helen is right. Miles is done. He's over. No, gang. We all saw the same thing. We know what happened. Am I right?" Miles says. Birdie raises her hand. "I saw the napkin he burned." Claire raises her hand too. "Now that you mention it, I clearly saw him grab Duke's gun." "Yeah, I saw him driving away from Andi's house the night she was killed," Lionel says. Miles sits down on the steps, realizing what just happened. They have all finally betrayed him. "Oh, you shitheads," he says. Helen walks towards the docks as the police boats finally show up and she sits down next to Blanc. "Did you get the son of a bitch?" he asks. "Yep," she responds. "You ready to go home?" he says, but Helen doesn't say anything back. She just sits there quietly, satisfied by what she's done. And with that, that is a glass onion. I know, insane. Oh my gosh, this was crazy. I feel like we've been talking for hours, but I hope that you guys really enjoyed this video and I hope that you guys enjoyed this movie. I recommend that you guys go watch this for yourselves. I left kind of a lot of stuff out because there's just no way I can include everything. So I just recommend that you guys actually watch this and get to experience it for yourself because it's truly such a fun and entertaining movie. The thrill is just unreal. So please go watch it and let me know what you guys think about this down below. I was truly expecting Miles to be Andi's killer. It just made the most sense to me. So I don't know why he was kind of like overlooked by everyone and why he wasn't everyone's like #1 suspect because of course he benefits the most from Andi's death. So it was obvious that he was the killer. I also knew that he was Duke's killer. I mean, Miles had such a horrible aura. So I just knew that if anyone was going to be the killer this weekend, it was going to be him. Overall, I loved this movie. It was thrilling. It was funny. It was exciting. The cast did such a beautiful job. And again, Janelle was insane. She was the star of the movie for me. And I honestly enjoyed her character just so much. Like, it's just really sad when you think about it because in the end, like, yes, Helen destroys everything. And now she's ruined his future with Clear and the Mona Lisa's burnt down and everything. And she did all of this work. So even after accomplishing everything, I mean, her sister is still dead. So that part was really sad just to think like, oh, wow, Helen has to go back to reality and just continue her life without her sister. Kate Hudson, who played Birdie, was also amazing. Her outfits were so fun to look at. She was such a funny character. I will say Knives Out is way better than Glass Onion. I just connected to those characters way more than I did to these characters. For some reason, I didn't really care about Claire or Lionel or even Duke. The only characters I really liked or were interested in were, of course, Benoit Blanc, Andi/Helen, and Birdie, which is very different, very little compared to the first Knives Out movie, where I was interested in all of the characters and I cared about their stories and wanted to see what happened to them after, the investigation was solved. Again, with Glass Onion, I didn't really feel that way. Like, I didn't care to see how these characters end up, what their futures look like now without Miles in their lives. So while the actors did a really amazing job, I just really wasn't a big fan of these characters. The movie is brilliant, of course, but there are moments where the plot just doesn't make sense. This is a murder mystery movie, so it's supposed to be fun and silly. So again, I try not to take things too seriously, but still, let me call out some moments that just didn't really make sense for me. For example, Miles having a fax machine and not a phone made no sense to me, especially for someone who is running a major company, by the way. Like, you would think his investors or just people would be like, no, you need a phone. Like, I need to call you if it's necessary. And he also had an iPad. So it's not like he's completely disconnected from the internet. That just was really weird. That didn't make sense to me. And there was also never a second where I didn't think that he knew about Andi's email. I assumed that someone would tell him, so I don't know why it was such a big plot point that he was faxed Andi's email. Of course, someone was going to tell him about it. I also didn't get how Duke seeing Miles outside of Andi's house meant that he knew Miles killed Andi and could blackmail him with that information. Also, did Duke not tell anybody else that he saw Miles that night when he almost ran him over? Because again, he told the rest of the group, yeah, that night when I went to Andi's house, I was almost pancaked on the road. He never told his friends oh, I was almost pancaked on the road by Miles, our billionaire friend. What? That just didn't really make sense to me. Again, that just didn't really make sense to me. Also, Duke's reaction when he read the news about Andi's death was insane. He didn't look confused or shocked because 2 seconds ago, he literally just called Andi a loser, but now he was reading about how Andi is dead. So why is he not more confused about how Andi has been dead for an entire week, yet he just saw her 2 seconds ago? That part to me was just a little unrealistic, or how he was able to be so calm and collected and was able to act normal in front of the group. He was able to call over Miles, show him the phone, and pretend to be showing him his views on YouTube. And in that quick second, he was able to make this whole blackmail plan. It just didn't really, I don't know, that part was just weird. Also, the blackmail plan didn't make sense to me. Yes, he could have covered for Miles and never revealed that he saw him the night that Andi died, but eventually the truth would have come out. And again, did he not tell anybody in this friend group yeah, Miles almost pancaked me that night? Crazy. So I know it's just silly and weird, but still, Duke having no reaction to reading about Andi's death when she was just there is just insane. Now, speaking of Andi's house, her house looked really humble and normal compared to Miles's mansion. She lived in this cute little cottage, which, I mean, yeah, if you're rich, you don't need to live in a huge mansion or whatever, but it just kind of showed the difference between them. Miles had a private island to himself in this crazy Glass Onion house, but Andi, who was just as rich as he was and just as important as he was, lived in a quiet little cottage and was just more humble about her life. So again, it was just interesting to see the difference between them. I also think that Claire and Lionel were having an affair. They just seemed really close to each other. And you can tell that Claire hates her husband. So to me, it was kind of obvious that they were having an affair, which is why they were so in cahoots the entire weekend. What else? Okay, the ending. The ending was just kind of odd. Blanc not fully solving the case was just weird. He's Detective Benoit Blanc. He could just go to the police, go to the courts, go to the prosecution and say, listen, Miles Bron killed Duke. He killed Andi. I saw the napkin. I saw him do this and that. And I'm sure the courts would maybe believe him enough to actually launch an investigation. They wouldn't be detective, that sounds so ridiculous. No, he's one of the world's greatest detectives. So the fact that in the end, he just told Helen, sorry, I can't do anything about this. I can't help you anymore. I need proof, and was just kind of giving up was so weird. What else? Okay, what was the deal with Whiskey? Sometimes it seemed like she actually liked Miles, but she was also heartbroken over Duke's death. So that whole situation was weird. Oh, also, I thought the photo that Andi sent to the group, holding the envelope with that threatening message was so weird because why was she posing with it? That was just weird to me too. What else? Oh, when Blanc makes his plan to join this murder mystery party, that was kind of funny to me too, because you would think that Miles would be on top of it and wouldn't let unknown people just show up to his dock, get on his yacht without confirming that they are a registered guest. So the fact that Blanc was able to show up to the dock, get on the yacht, and just show up to this party without anyone really questioning him or double checking that he was a confirmed guest was just really funny to me. What else? Let's just do rapid fire questions. Why did Miles keep the envelope? Did Miles know Helen wasn't actually Andi the entire time? Or was Birdie the only one that knew Andi had a sister? Like, did Miles not know that Andi had a twin sister? I'm very confused about that part. I mean, whatever. Again, it's just a silly movie and I really enjoyed it. And I could have a million of these murder mystery movies with Detective Benoit Blanc because he is just so amazing. So let me know, please, your thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, theories, everything in the comment section down below about this movie. If you guys would like to see me discuss the first movie, Knives Out, you guys can click on the link down below or just click on the upcoming screen. Again, if you guys really want me to do the third movie in this trilogy, I will happily do it. It might just take me a little bit more time to do because the third movie is just really long and it has like a million characters. So that one might be insane. Either way, I recommend that you guys go watch these movies by yourselves, go enjoy them. These are beautiful, wonderful movies. And if you guys have any other movie recommendation down below, make sure to let me know. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye everyone.